the German Bundestag, for kindly agreeing to deliver the keynote address at today's event. Thank you, Your Excellency, for taking the time to be with us today. And I greatly look forward to hearing from you and from our learned panelists today on ways to further enhance India-German cooperation and relationship. And once again, I welcome all participants to this program today. Before I hand over to Dr. Mishra, I'd just like to thank Mr. Gopi Prasad from his Managing Director of Goldman Consulting, who is with us here today, for all the technical support he has given in organizing this event and making it a success. And as you would have seen from the paper, which you can collect from the table there, we are together organizing a hybrid physical online conference, which is entitled Atmanirbhar Bharat Through Global Competence on the 21st of October from 11 to 1 o'clock here at the consulate. And this is specially targeted at startups and MSMEs. And the objective of that conference is to enable participants to explore global markets, particularly between India and Germany. And eminent speakers from Germany and India will be presenting their insights on government policies, business opportunities, and factors that enable growth in today's global economy. And you are all invited to be a part of that conference. You can get the details from that paper and also from our social media. So once again, thank you, Dr. Dirk Wiese, for your kind presence at today's event, and also to the speakers, to the panelists, and to the moderators and participants who are here physically and also who are with us online. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Excellency, for officially opening this event. So, ladies and gentlemen, we see and we understand that for decades now, there has been an alliance and friendship between Germany and India. Yes, we may have a great set of different challenges, but there are also enormous opportunities. And I'm sure that our countries will continue to work well together. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Dr. Rajesh Mishra, the owner of the Mishra Academy, who has played an enormous role in initiating this business summit. This event has been, for the past 2 years, a great platform to get inspired, to learn, connect, and discuss with all the different stakeholders in the Indo-German business community. Dear Dr. Mishra, please give us more insight on this initiative. The stage is yours.
Here, CP sir, Mr. John Rodman sir, Mr. Dirk Wiese, Member, German Parliament, Mr. Kusan Diga sir, ladies and gentlemen. German Indian Business Summit is the initiative of GIMCO, Global Indian Network Community, Hochschule Bremen, and Consulate General of India, Hamburg. Today we are missing our colleague, Dr. Shahjar Bulbus, because of some personal reason. This gift comes with these three initiators, and I will really mention one more name who is always behind the stage, which is Mr. Parminder Ji from Consulate. They are always supporting us. Thank you. Our aim is to promote linkage between German-Indian business promotion, consortia, and institutions in order to integrate the efforts of all agencies operating in the Indo-German business space. Our objectives: identify and address gaps in the linkage between companies, organizations, institutions, and people promoting Indo-German business through an annual German-Indian Business Summit, which is known as the GIBS. Competence, mapping, recognition, and appreciation of business leaders, entrepreneurs, and institutions promoting business, trade, commerce between Germany and India for the GIBS Business Leadership Awards. This year, because of the pandemic, so we cannot execute this part, but hopefully next year we will do. I hope we will able to achieve our goal. Our special thanks to Ms. Lakshmi Mohanji from CII, who accepted to be our main partners of the third German-Indian Business Summit. Naturally, this year, UFO, IPF, Indian Business Forum, Hamburg, GINSEP, Indian Institute, München are our supporters. Again, welcome all of you. Thank you. Namaste.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure and honor to welcome our keynote speaker of this year's German-Indian Business Summit. Dirk Wiese was appointed as the deputy chairman of the SPD parliamentary group in the German Bundestag in May 2020 and is currently an alternate member of the following committees: the Committee on Foreign Affairs, the Committee on Legal Affairs and Consumer Protection, the Committee on Internal Affairs and Community, the Committee for the Scrutiny of Elections, Immunity and the Rules of Procedure, and the Committee on Cultural and Media Affairs. Since 2013, he has been member of the German Bundestag, elected via the land list of NRW Nordrhein-Westfalen, Hochsauerland district. In addition to his parliamentary work, Mr. Wiese served as a parliamentary state secretary at the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy under Minister Brigitte Zypries in the coalition government of Chancellor Angela Merkel from 2017 to 2018. From 2018 until 2020, he was the German government's coordinator for intersocietal cooperation with Russia, Central Asia, and the Eastern Partnership countries at the Federal Foreign Office. Since 2018, he is also chairman of the German-Indian Parliamentary Friendship Group. The purpose of these parliamentary friendship groups is actually to promote ongoing dialogue with the parliamentary institutions of one or more partner states. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Dirk Wiese, also on behalf of CI, for the commendable work that he's been doing since 2018 to strengthen the bilateral relationship. Honorable Mr. Dirk Wiese, member of the German Bundestag, we look forward to your keynote speech.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody, to the Hanseatic city of Hamburg and everybody, I think, all around the world who is joining this German-Indian Business Summit today. Dear Lakshmi Mohan, thanks first of all for your words, and it's true. I'm very engaged and a strong believer in the German-Indian relationship, also as the chairman of the German-Indian Parliamentary Friendship Group. And all members of the German-Indian Parliamentary Friendship Group, let me say this, are very, very interested in deepening the partnership between India and Germany, especially, of course, in the economic sector. So all members of the German-Indian Parliamentary Friendship Group in German Bundestag in the last period, in the period before, but also in the new period, are very engaged in our relationship. And I hope we find a lot of members in the new parliament who are joining our parliamentary group. It's very important to have these close contacts also between our two parliaments. Thanks also, Excellency Consul General, for your words. I want to say a few words later also to your impressive statistics that you have for the actual figures of the German-Indian trade relations, and also a good morning to Dr. Rajesh Mishra for organizing organizing this event, of course, and also for your impressive statement that we hear, of course, before. My relation to India, to say this, is very special. In 2010, I had the possibility to do my legal clerkship in the German embassy in New Delhi. And it was impressive to stay a few months and to live a few months in New Delhi, to see a lot from your country, of course. And since then, I'm engaged in these relationships. And after becoming a member of parliament in 2013, it was my first decision that I want to become a member also of this parliamentary friendship group, first as a deputy chairman and now, of course, as a chairman, to intensify this relationship between our two countries, because the relationship between our two countries, it is absolutely important. I have to say this always to my colleagues in German parliament. India is, of course, the biggest democracy in the world. It is our important partner, also for the European Union, of course, and the rise of India, to say this very clear, is a German and European interest, of course. And I have to say always to my colleagues in German parliament that your democracy is 2 years older than ours. Not everybody knows this in German parliament, but that is something, of course, where we see a basic of our partnership, that both of our countries share democratic values who are built on, I want to say, similar political interests, of course, with regard to peace and also to safety, also in the region, of course. I say a few words, of course, later. But let's take a look why India is such important partner for us also on the economic side. India in 1947 was one of the first members of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. India was a founder member of the WTO. India now has an increasing income and growing middle class. And that shows, of course, where also German firms have a strong interest in engage in Indian markets in the moment, of course, and where we see a lot of potential also for the future. As we heard, India, of course, had an almost unlimited growth potential. And that is also very important for our bilateral relationship, of course, to Germany, but also to the European Union, of course. If we take a look on the past years, as the Council General, His Excellency said, it is very important that both of our countries have these strategic partnership. We don't have this strategic partnership with every country all over the world. So it is a signal how important we see these bilateral relationship between our two countries. And I think it would be a good sign also if we have these strategic partnership and also the governmental talks again in the next upcoming months, also back in reality, not such only as a video conference, but that would be, I think, also a good signal for the new German government, where we have some talks, actually, some busy talks actually in the capital, of course, to form this new coalition government at the moment, of course. To have a look to the challenges, of course, India is facing also in the region. I think we both have a big interest in stability in the Indo-Pacific region, of course. I had the possibility to join the Raisina dialogue in January 2020, where we have some interesting talks about the stability in the region, the challenges in the region, of course, where we both see that all partners want to strengthen our multilateral interests and multilateral cooperation also on a global level, that we want to have future-orientated markets, of course. I say some words later to this, but we see also that we are facing some challenges, both of our countries, in fighting the climate crisis. And of course, I want to say this very open, counter, of course, the competitor China. We also have these discussions in Germany about our behavior against China, about strategies against China, of course, and I'm a little bit, of course, concerned at the moment about the situation, of course, at the northern border that you have with China at the moment, but that is also something where we have to work very closely together also, so in the future. But to come back to what we can do to strengthen our bilateral relationship, I think very positive is that we see the new policy guidelines from 2020 also from the Indo-Pacific by the German government. If we take a look in these Indo-Pacific guidelines that we published in the last government, India is one of the most important partners for our common goals in the region. The key pillar for Germany's engagement in the region is, of course, India. It is our strategic partner in the region. And most important point, to be very open, is, of course, in the economic sector, that we take a close look to the negotiations of a free trade agreement between the European Union and India. I can ensure that it is much better to have such a free trade agreement, a modern free trade agreement, of course, and there's a big potential also for the economic relationship as a whole if we would have such an important free trade agreement. The Council General said that the trade figures between our two countries are impressive. The statistics verify this good partnership. Germany is, of course, India's most important trading partner, actually, and the trading volume is, of course, 19.6 billion in 2020. That is important, but we can also do more. But actually, to be a little to see what Germany is doing on the ground. 1,800 companies, 1,800 German companies creates more than 600,000 new jobs in India. That is an impressive figure how important German enterprises also see these growing Indian market. And I think there's more potential also for the future. But I think we both have some challenges also in the economic sector to cope with. The success today is linked, of course, with good communication and information technology. And I think if we take a look on these impressive startup ecosystem that you have in India, it is also a good possibility to strengthen also the connections between the startups of our two countries, of course. One example to strengthen these startup eco sector, to have bridge builders between our two countries in this sector is, of course, GINSEP. GINSEP is the German-Indian startup exchange program. I had the possibility as a parliamentary state secretary in 2017 to be one of the, or to have the possibility to initiate this project that brings young people from India and Germany together. And it is good that this program, this GINSEP program, is still going on. And it's very impressive that also Ms. Angela Di Giacomo is here today in the audience. In 2018, we both had the possibility to go to India, to Bangalore, to Mumbai, and to New Delhi with a delegation from GINSEP to bring bridge builders between our two countries together to have more engagement between our two startup ecosystem. And I think on the upcoming panel, Angela Di Giacomo will, of course, say perhaps a few words. So it's good to have you here at this business summit, of course, today. Of course, the cooperation in digital economy as a whole has an enormous potential for Europe and India. It can create attractive markets for both of our countries in advancing digitalization. And India can become our first partner in digital policy. But of course, what we need is a free, open and safe cyberspace, of course, and to fight cyber criminality. To say this because as a deputy chairman, I have the responsibility for everything with cyber criminality also at the moment. I have a lot of concerns what is going on there. And I think there is also a potential for a close cooperation between our two countries, of course. Of course, both our countries are still facing also the consequences of the corona pandemic, and the challenges are still there. But it was also a good signal that both of our countries in this difficult situation were helping each other, and that we had the possibility to support each other in this very difficult situation that we face also in this year. I said, for our economic relationship also in the future, it is important to have bilateral programs who can strengthen this economic relationship. As I said, GINSEP, in my point of view, is a very good program that we see, but also I want to say this because Stefan Halusa is here today from the Indian Chamber of Commerce. Also, the work of the Indian German Chamber of Commerce is important, because this Indian German Chamber of Commerce is the oldest Chamber of Commerce that we have from Germany, and they are doing such an excellent job for German enterprises if they want to enter the Indian market. And for that reason, we must do everything to support and strengthen also the work of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. For that, Stefan Halusa, let me please say you're doing a really good job also for our bilateral relationship, especially in the economic sector. Another example, let me please say this, is also the German-Indian project Make in India Mittelstand. It was an idea as India was a partner country at the Hanover Fair in 2014. We want to gain German companies, of course, for India. It helps to stimulate also the Indian economy if more, of course, German Mittelstand is going to India, because German Mittelstand is a backbone of German industry, and they are very successful hidden champions, global hidden champions that we have here, who have a close look to the Indian market. Of course, there are some questions about tax, bureaucracy, of course. So to ease doing business, we can do, I think, something special and to stimulate also these enterprises that they have the possibility to enter the Indian market, of course. So such projects we need to engage for strengthen the German-Indian partnership and German-Indian economic partnership. I'm glad that we have this German-India Business Summit as a platform that brings companies together, of course, and promotes the economic partnership between companies and organizations. All you participate today in this summit. You are bridge builders and you are believers in a strong German-Indian partnership, a strong connection between the European Union economy and also the Indian economy, of course. So in my point of view, to sum up, there's a massive potential for India and Germany when we work together for a stronger economy, especially with the potential of the advancing digitalization, as we both have this great and big startup ecosystem, especially you in your country. So again, I think there's a big potential also in the regional cooperation that we have. It's good that we have regional cooperations between Bavaria and Karnataka, that we have regional cooperation between Baden-Württemberg and Maharashtra, and that we have a new regional cooperation also to promote economic relationship from North Rhine-Westphalia to the government of West Bengal. So there's also a big potential in this regional cooperation. At the end, I wish you all a good and profitable exchange that strengthen our cooperations today. Thank you very much. Again, I wish you all a good summit today, and thanks for joining this short keynote from my point of view. Thank you very much.
Lieber Herr Wiese, wir danken Ihnen noch einmal für die Arbeit, die Sie einsetzen, für den Fortschritt und auch die Zusammenarbeit der beiden Länder Indien und Deutschland. Thank you so much for that truly outstanding keynote address and for sharing your vision and insights on Indo-German bilateral relationship. We are greatly privileged to hear your thoughts on a subject that is of great pertinence both to Indian and German industry. And we sincerely believe that your vision, dedication, and sincerity will take the Indo-German relationship to even greater heights in times to come. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a short introduction of the IGCC. This institution was incorporated in 1956. The Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, or AHK Indian, is the primary contact for Indian and German companies who want to start doing business with the other country. The IGCC is a membership-based organization that offers advice and services to members, collaborates on Indo-German cooperation initiatives, and functions as the voice of the Indo-German business community, both at a political and institutional level, internationally and within both countries. Just as we heard from Mr. Dirk Wiese, a member of the German Bundestag, even we from CII work together with the IGCC, and we recognize that this organization has greatly contributed to the many Indo-German success stories in the past and present, and surely also in the future. The Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and the Germany Trade and Invest, together with the German government, represent the so-called three-pillar structure of bilateral economic relations, strengthening trade and investment relations. We are extremely honored to have with us here today Mr. Stefan Halusa, who's joining virtually. He is since September 2020 the Director General of the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Halusa, with the IGCC, you offer vast experience and expertise in Indian and German markets to companies in all stages of business development, from formulating entry strategies to setting up local offices and communicating their expansion to core markets. We look forward to your special address. The stage is yours.
Hello? Okay, now I guess you can hear me well. Thank you very much, Lakshmi, for that very kind introduction of yours. I would almost say everything has been said. There's nothing left for me to add from you, but also with the kind words of Dirk Wiese about IGCC. So thanks again, and a very good afternoon from Mumbai. Also, dear Consul General, Mr. Rollenguld, it's a pleasure to see you again, if only virtual today, not like last time when I had the chance to visit the consulate in Hamburg. Dear Mr. Wiese, Of course, I would also like to start by congratulating you to be re-elected to the Bundestag. It is great to know that India and the advancement of Indo-German relationships have such a strong and will continue to have such a strong supporter in the German Bundestag. So thank you very much, of course, for everything that you've done. And Lakshmi already pointed it out in the past. And we are very much looking forward to working also very closely with you for Indo-German ties in the future. I would like to thank, of course, CII, the Consulate General, and also Hochschule Bremen for organizing the German-Indian Business Summit today and for inviting me to speak here today. Lakshmi already mentioned a lot of things about IGCC. We have been incorporated in 1956, and today we are indeed the biggest and largest bilateral chamber in India with more than 4,000 members. We have offices in Mumbai, in Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, Chennai, and Pune, and we have also an office in Düsseldorf that works also in two directions. Basically, it's the first point of contact for our German members who want to start business in India, but it is also supporting Indian companies in their endeavors in Germany. I mean, our mission, our target is basically bringing people together, bringing people and companies together from both of the countries. We want to support, as it has already been pointed out, German companies in starting and growing their business in India, but at the same time also Indian companies in starting and growing their business in Germany. It is probably the largest bilateral network between India and Germany, so you are all invited, of course, to join. We represent companies of all sizes, of all industries, and of all ages, so to speak. We represent companies like Siemens, have been in the country for more than 150 years, and startup companies which have just basically started their business in either India or in Germany. We're basically cooperating with initiatives in both directions. GINSEP has already been mentioned, and Julian Six is here today also and joining the Business Summit. Of course, startups are very and will continue to be a very important and factor in Indo-German ties. When Indian companies today look at Germany, I think mostly, of course, they're looking at market opportunities in Germany, but also beyond. Germany, of course, being in the middle of Europe, is the ideal place to also start the business within the European Union. But of course, so there's also the access to technology. When German companies look at India, of course, they see the huge market opportunities that they have been mentioned already before. But beyond that, they're also seeing the access to a very well-educated talent pool. Most prominently, it is in IT, but of course, that goes beyond that. Skilled labor, skilled employees, and that is a result of a business outlook and a survey that we have conducted with KPMG earlier this year, is one of the main factors for India's attractiveness for foreign investors in the perspective in investors to choose India over other locations. And so it is no wonder and not very surprising that in addition to manufacturing, R&D is a huge and growing part of investment of German companies in India and employment of German companies in India. We have a number of member companies, a number of German companies which employ by now more than 10,000 people in engineering. And of course, Mr. Wiese already mentioned that point. Around these, we see a very active startup ecosystem being built up. The only number that I have read lately was that I guess by 2020, there were already more than 11,000 startups in India, and there are probably 2,000 being added every year. And I guess also probably a very well-known fact, India is the third largest country when it comes to unicorns behind the US and China, and it's actually closing the gap towards China. And I think that is also a very promising development. Obviously, there is and that's going to be the only side remark towards China from my side today is obviously it becomes easier now to run a digital business model in India than it is in China due to more massive restrictions being implied there. And this is basically one of the main risks and most important, not risks, tasks that we see in the future. And this is bringing together and building the bridges between the companies in our network. Bridging startups, as we have discussed, and some, to a certain degree, old industry, especially from the SME sector, because we believe that there we still can sometimes see some reservations against the digitization of their business model, some concerns that exist. And it is, of course, our target, and this is why we work with initiatives with GINZEP and more. We want to overcome these reservations, and we want to make sure that that we can build the bridge and have support companies in working together in all stages of their existence. And of course, this is an outlook that is given. We see after the second wave of the COVID pandemic, we see that both economies are picking up. We see them. It was mentioned that there is going to be an increase of GDP of close to 10% in India, 6-7% in 21, 6-7% in the years after that. So obviously, there's a huge potential. We see many areas that the Indian government is focusing on, where the production-linked incentives are focused on, like renewable energy, like automotive, like machinery, like electronics, but also healthcare and logistics, where German companies have traditionally a very strong technology. So we believe that they can benefit quite a bit from all of these initiatives. Also, the Indo-German trade has been picking up, and I mean, the numbers up to July may even indicate that if the rest of the year is stable, that we may see new record highs. So there are ample opportunities in Indo-German business. We are here to help the companies to grab them. And with that positive note, I would like to end, but not without coming back to what Lakshmi said at the beginning. It is absolutely great to have now the chance to have hybrid events again. But I guess it's even more fun if we're actually at the location and joining digitally, because that still feels a little bit like a digital event when you're on the other side. But still, I wish you a very, very successful business summit. Thanks again for having me. And I hope to see some of you, many of you then, at the India Week in Hamburg again, which is starting on November 8th. So with that note, thank you very much again, and a great afternoon.
Many thanks again, Mr. Halucha, to you and your fantastic team for the work you're doing, and also your special address. And personally, I hope to meet you very soon in person. Dear participants, Germany has always been the front runner when it comes to investments in India. There are more than 1,600 Indo-German collaborations and over 600 Indo-German joint ventures in operation. Various programs have been set up in order to facilitate the realization of business opportunities in India, such as already mentioned before, the fast track system for German companies or the Make in India Mittelstand program. Currently, Germany is India's largest European trading partner, and it's actually the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs of both countries, that drive this success story. India also has a major footprint in Germany, and regard to this, I'm referring to a study that CII did with EY, the IDCC, and the Bertelsmann Foundation. And we found that out of a total number of approximately 213 subsidiaries operating in Germany, the top 74 Indian companies generated combined annual revenues of approximately 11 billion euros, which is impressive. And these companies are responsible for a combined workforce of more than 23,000 employees. But let's admit there is still vast potential for collaboration and a continuous knowledge exchange. So in this regard, I want to refer to our upcoming panel, which will definitely act as an important linkage to foster Indo-German exchange and experience sharing. We have put together a fantastic panel today to share some insights of the Indo-German success stories. This panel will be moderated by Ms. Julie Ann Chiraisi, who heads the India desk and is also contributor for European affairs at the Free and Hanseatic City of Hamburg Senate Chancellery. She always had a very strong interest in India. There was something that fascinated her about this unknown place that seemed so different from Germany. Julie, I was so impressed to read the paper on the personal facts that you share. And actually, I must admit that you've seen much more of India than even I have. So we can't have a better moderator for this panel today. Welcome, Julie, and you can introduce the panelists and the topic to our participants today. This work? Okay. Dear Lakshmi, Consul General Mr. Rolongo, thank you very much for this brief introduction. I feel, flattered by your words. And I'm very happy to moderate today's panel on success stories. Indeed, we have 4 very interesting and distinguished personalities on this panel. We could certainly listen to each one of them for 45 minutes, but given the limited time, I will not waste it, but shoot off with some very pressing questions that I have. I did some research, and even though not being an expert in economic affairs and your specific business fields, I became quite hungry for some more knowledge. So before I start, please allow me to briefly introduce the panelists. Ms. Angela De Giacomo, she's there online. Angela, you have studied business administration and then you've spent 7 years with KPMG as a tax advisor before moving actually to India and becoming one of the top advisors of the Bissell family office. During this time, you lived in India and in Berlin, half a year in India, half a year in Berlin, which is quite impressive. And I'm curious to know how you did this, In 2013, I believe you came back to Berlin, no, 2017, sorry. And then you started working for Christoph Kroschke GmbH. While you were in Berlin, you also initiated the German-Indian Startup Exchange Program. I'm happy to talk to you today because we actually have 2 events during our upcoming India Week Hamburg together with GINZEP. And, you also became involved in Wunder Nova Frauensommer and a Think Fest in May 2019 and August 21, where Germany's first lady gave the opening speech. So Angela, you were selected as top 40 under 40 by Capital, a German business magazine, in 2019, and you were also selected as among the top 100 women by Focus in 2020. I'm very happy to have you here today, and I have some good questions for you. But then I would like to continue with Mr. Mohan Murthy, who obtained a degree in law and science and a master in industrial relations and personal management. Mohan, you have been nominated by the government of India's Ministry of Commerce as India's representative to the United Nations Interpress Service. Since 1993, you were the director of CII Cologne in Germany. And since 2004, you're the managing director of Reliance Europe, which is part of the Reliance Industries Limited,
And Reliance Industries Limited is, just to sum up, a multinational conglomerate. It is India's 8th largest employer with over 236,000 employees, and it really, contributes a substantial part to India's economy. To my right side, I have Devduta Panda, who has a master in management, as I understand. And Devduta, you've been working for the ICICI Bank for 16 years. You have substantial experience in retail and corporate and international banking. So your strong background is in corporate banking and enables you to, engage and offer solutions to corporates in Germany with business interests in India and vice versa, of course. Apart from your corporate banking responsibility in the UK, you've also been credited for starting commercial real estate for the bank in London. But for now, you focus on the bank's business in Germany, both corporate and retail banking. And you also, so you also have a very strong share, of experience that I will have very interesting questions for you about, because the banking sector is very specific in Germany, I would say. And it is the first Indian bank, to my knowledge, that has entered the German market. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And to my left side, I, last but not least, have Robin Stetter, who is an engineer, and he is the CEO and stakeholder of Advanced Training Technologies, part of the Schmidt-Franz Group, which has 140 years of experience in mining, high-pressure hydrogen industries. And you are responsible for the knowledge development within the whole group, and you have worldwide customers, as I understand. The ATT started a project to build up an academy in Udaipur to qualify service technicians for maintenance and troubleshooting. So as I understand correctly, you bring innovation into mining, which is a very old business field and maybe also a very traditional business field. And thereby you promote the exchange of skilled workforce between Germany and India. So having said that, and having introduced my guests, I would like to say that I have 3 rounds of questions, one introductory for each. Then we will go a little bit into the depth, and then, we will look into the future. So I would like to start with our lady, with Angela, of course. Angela, you have lived and worked abroad. You have worked and lived in both countries, sometimes even at the same time, as I've already mentioned. So my first question to you would be, where did you feel most comfortable on a personal level, but also in terms of ease of doing business in India and Germany? How would you compare the 2 countries? Could you name, 2 striking points maybe?
Well, Julianne, hello, first of all, to everyone, and thank you for having me here with all the excellencies and Dirk Wiese. You have a couple of questions, so I'll probably start by explaining what exactly I did. So in 2013, after my stint with KPMG and the M&A department, I moved to India to work with the Bissell family, and they are the owners of Fab India. And my role was in the beginning to help them with some tech structuring, because that was my professional background. And then we continued setting up a single family office, and we started deploying the funds. So it became an 8.5-year stint. And of course, during that time, while living in India for a couple of years and having known India since 1998, I've made a lot of friends. So on a personal level, it is my heart is always in India, even if I'm here, because I have a lot of really dear friends, which I'm missing at the moment because I can't see them. And that makes a huge difference to a country, the people who are there. And other than that, on a personal level, I've always found India very stimulating compared to Germany. So I miss that part of it as well. So that's just on a high level, personal level kind of reply. you asked about the ease of business. Well, I think that over the many years that I have been living in India, so from 2013 onwards, what was very clearly visible is that it became much easier to do business. So in the rankings, one can also very clearly see that India has improved a lot, also under the leadership of the new parties. So many things have happened, but I would say there are still a few things that make it more tricky to do business in India compared to Germany. I think you asked what are the pros and cons. In the professional world, I have always felt that it's good to have a professional management team as well. And what I have seen in India, which I found difficult at times as a foreigner, is in India, you have even listed companies that are run by families, which is not necessarily a difficult thing, but it means that you have to do more due diligence when you want to invest in a company that is listed and it's family run, because you have to understand the family dynamics and how to take decisions and how this will impact business. So in Germany, where I am used to more professionally run listed companies, I had to learn about this. So I don't know whether it's a pro or a con, but it's definitely a difference which I have observed in India. There is also something called family run. So there is even a partnership in a legal perspective where families can run a company. So we have it here in the Mittelstand, but we don't have it so much in the listed front. What else can I say? What I liked about India is though that they have a different board mentality. So even in the startup ecosystem where I have spent a lot of time, there were boards set up with a lot of legal requirements. And I always felt that this gave the whole setup a more professional tone. In Germany, we don't have that. So boards and startups are something that you rarely see. What I liked about India is when you set up a company, it is much cheaper compared to Germany, of course, due to many reasons. And what I also liked is that they have something called frugal innovation and a concept of Jugaad, where you sometimes are a bit more flexible compared to what I have seen in a engineer-driven, perfection-oriented German path. So yeah, so these are a few things that I have observed. What I always felt was a detrimental thing for India when it was regarded from a foreign perspective is that in India, there have been cases where the tax regulations have changed with retroactive effect, which is something unknown in Germany. So if you change the tax law, it's always future oriented. And in India, there have been a few cases where it was with retroactive effect, which makes it difficult for investors to build a trust relationship. So Vodafone case is one example. So I hope that this answered your question on a few pros and cons, which I have observed in doing business in India.
Thank you very much, Angela. And then I would like to pass over to Mr. Mohan Murthy. I would like to ask you, Mr. Murthy, would you agree to what Angela has just said about the different, the different ease of doing business, the different cultures? So what is, what is the Indian perception of Germany and vice versa? Impressions, and many times wrong impressions, are formed from what we see and read in the media. And, how does it affect the Indo-German partnerships? You have recently authored a book titled Walking the Indian Labyrinth, A Pilgrimage in Eternity, and you teach at European business schools. So what are the key points that you teach your students?
Well, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and share my thoughts. Very good questions. I will try to answer each one of them separately. Firstly, I would agree with the panelist who mentioned about her experiences in India. Right now we have over the last 7 years, we have a new government, and the Prime Minister, in fact, coincidentally, just yesterday, mentioned that there will be no retrospective laws that will be passed, including taxation, etc. And in the tenure of this new Prime Minister, we have not had any such experiences. It was in the previous regime that we had problems with regard to retrospective taxation. Second point I'd like to touch on is family business, family-owned businesses, and how they are listed in the stock exchange and how they are managed. Well, my own company is a family-owned company. We are a multi-billion conglomerate. Today, the market valuation is about 500 billion. And in terms of turnover, we are a 130 billion turnover company. Highly professionally managed, while the board, we have the family. We also have a lot of professionals on the board, and very key positions are held by top professionals from the respective industries. As you all know, we are a highly diversified company, and therefore in every area we have top professionals who manage the business, and we follow all the regulations that need to be followed by a listed company. The other point I'd like to touch on, maybe add on to what the panelist mentioned earlier about the cultural differences. Anyone wanting to do business in India and succeed needs to understand the Indian mind. And in terms of, please remember that in terms of culture, in terms of ethnic backgrounds, the way we think and the way we do things, we are very different. We are different, genetically different. Now, how do you understand this genetic code of the Indian mind? The first thing about Indians is that we manage excellent when there is chaos. We create chaos, we also manage it very well. And if you've been to India, you must have seen the way our traffic moves. And there are not many accidents that happen. Everything just moves around. The second thing is about the ability of the Indian. While Germans can do only one task at a time, the Indian can do multitasking, 10 things at the same time. And if you're checking into a hotel, for instance, you would have seen that. The lady at the reception manages 5 or 6 people at the same time. Or if you go to a shop to buy something, it's the same experience. Multitasking is a great ability of an Indian. The third is, and the most important, is the Indian sense of time. The European sense of time is very linear. It's a straight line. What is lost never comes back. Whereas the Indian concept of time is cyclical. And so we believe in rebirth and reincarnation and all that. And therefore, what time that is lost will always come back. And if you know our national language, Hindi, the word kal means yesterday, and kal also means tomorrow. So that is the Indian concept of time. The third is that while the European mindset is that the head rules the heart, the Indian mindset is that the heart will rule the head, which means we are a bundle of emotions. You need to understand. If you want to understand the Indian mind, you have to first understand the Indian heart, and that will then make things easier. The other thing is, and a very important point I'd like to mention, is about contracts. Indians do not believe necessarily in written contracts. And I speak from, I'm a lawyer myself, and I speak from my 42 odd years of work experience as a lawyer. Everything in India will work on good relations. And therefore, it's very important that you do not at any point in time go to the court to settle your disputes. The best way to settle disputes is either discussions or through arbitration. but never go to the Indian court, because the Indian courts, while we have, the rule of law and we have an excellent judicial system, sometimes the Indian courts, run on the cyclical concept of time, which means it may take a lifetime to settle your dispute. So my advice is don't ever go to court. As far as possible, settle your disputes outside of the court. One important point again is that an Indian may not, since we are a bundle of emotions, we may not always like to say no to anything. When Indians find it difficult to say no. And remember that when an Indian says yes, possible, then you have to take it with a pinch of salt, maybe a spoon of salt. So we may not always mean what we say, and we may not say, what we mean. This is basically something that you must understand. My last point is that Indians are innately intelligent people. So be careful, you cannot fool an Indian. An Indian can buy from an Italian and sell to a Scotsman and yet make a profit. So these are some of the important points that I thought I should mention with regard to the cultural differences. And I'd like to hand over back to you now. If there are any further questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murthy. I myself, from my experience, can confirm some of the points that you mentioned. And, even though you're not here with us physically, I can assure you that I saw many smiles and nodding faces in the audience when you talked about the Indian perception of time and, doing multiple things at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now my next question will go to Udev. The ICICI Bank was founded in Germany, or the German office, in 2008. Could you briefly tell us about it? What were the positive and negative experience in setting a business in Germany?
Thank you. Hope I'm audible. First of all, thank you to the organizers and CGI Hamburg for inviting me here. It's my pleasure. Your question about being in Germany in 2008, I'll just give you the background. So we were present in UK since 2003, and it was a natural progression for us to be in the continental Europe. And that's how in 2008, we started with a passported branch in Frankfurt. But again, the understanding and the rationale was that we were following our customers from India to the overseas geography. So that was a time before that, there were a lot of acquisitions happening in this market by Indian corporates, and that is how we were following them. But I think everybody would know that 2008 was not a great year for finance and banking. So we also understood that. But that gave us time. Coming to your positive, there are a lot of changes that happened in this market with respect to governance, with respect to regulations, and we benefited by picking up the best practices from this market at that point of time. So that's one positive. So negative, I would not say negative, but yes, challenge as such is always that when you move or get into a business in another country, there is a little bit of culture gap. So obviously we are not immune to that. But the sooner you get into it, you get it sorted, the better it is. So I think that way we also got into it and closed that part. We integrated with the system, and we have been here for many years right now.
Thank you. I would like to stay a little bit in this part of the business because it is very specific, and ask you to what the extent of the banking landscape is different in India and Germany, not from the view of the customer, of course, but from the view of a company and especially as a bank.
So let me put two angles to it. One is, as a bank, how do we see that different in Germany as compared to India? So first we need to understand that, we are talking about two geographies where one is a matured market, the other is a developing economy. So regulations are built around it. That's one. Second is, if you see India, the flow of funds, and I'm being a little bit technical about banking, flow of funds of foreign currency into India or getting outside of India is regulated. And which means that there are regulations around it which a bank needs to adhere to. So accordingly, the landscape changes in India as compared to Germany. That's one. Second, for a bank, the regulations in India are more prescriptive. But if you look at Germany, or for that matter, Europe, it is more of a guidance that is provided, and you have to have a management, call on that, and a judgment that is made by the management based on the guidance from the regulators. So that's on a bank, how it sees the two geographies. A little bit I move down, I see the market with respect to banking. Then I'll just take one example probably, and if you want more, maybe we can discuss. But if you just take one product, say supply chain finance, how it operates here and how it operates back in India. This market is more mature. You have more variants of supply chain finance as compared to India, which is now just picking up. So when the market matures, it is not that the banks do not have the capabilities or the expertise to offer that product there, but as and when the market matures, those products will come in there. So that's another part to the different landscape that you see in both the cities.
Thank you. You said you followed your customers to Germany from India, and that relates to my third question to you. Is why did you choose Germany? Why is Germany such a promising destination? And how does your company, how is it able to survive despite Germany being over?
Okay. So I think Germany as a destination, we have had many speakers who talked about that, why Germany is important. But I'll again highlight a few things. One is that apart from being one of the largest economies in Europe, having such a strong, trade and business relationship with India, it is also a manufacturing base. Okay? It's a manufacturing economy, and India is a developing economy with a huge domestic consumption, entrepreneurship, aspiring SMEs, budding entrepreneurs. So, it's filled with those activities there. So it forms a natural, I would say tie-up and provides the right environment. Is that okay? So it provides the right environment for business and trade to grow. So, that makes it the right place to be with, so that you can, help the business grow. That's on one part. Second, when you say that, we also noticed, that after Brexit, many of the corporates do look at Germany as a country to enter the EU market. So this is a recent development. Obviously, Brexit has happened recently. That is also one thing that aids probably to have business set up in Germany. The second question I think which you had is that how do we survive in Germany, considering that it is overbanked, or we are in Frankfurt, which is again a lot of banks, international, local banks. So we keep our focus on three segments, and that is largely on the corporate side. We keep it to the Indian corporates who are coming to this part of the world, which means that they might be our existing customers back in India. They need some support in terms of the banking requirements here, and we are happy to offer it. So they don't have a new bank, we are there to support them. Second is the multinational corporates. So in our journey from 2008, when we started following our customers, later we realized that there is a good, amount of, I would say, or number of multinational corporates who have business interest in India, and they would like to also engage with us for the business back in India, and cross-border trade activity. So this is also a segment that we focus. And typically, if you say a corporate here would be banking with a lot of local banks, but why do they need us? They need us only for specific niche areas where we add value either here or back in India. So that's the second. And third is there is a lot of trade, even if corporates are not present in either of the two countries, but there's a lot of trade that is happening. And this trade flow is captured if you have a bank present here as well as back then. So we stick to our focus area, and that is how we survive.
Thank you very much. I can see, that there is a growth in the trade happening from India to Germany, which is a good sign. And with this topic, I would like to hand over to my Robin. Robin, actually, I have a surprise for you because on your LinkedIn profile, I read something which I would like to quote, and that would be my introductory question. It says on your LinkedIn profile, everyone is talking about the hashtag transport turnaround. So are we, but underground, because we also have ambitious climate targets, and first and foremost, the health of our miners in mind. Could you elaborate a little bit more on this and help me understand what your business is about? Because I find it most abstract to understand,
Okay. Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you that I can stay here and can share my experience. And I would like to say I'm not an Indian professional because my company or our company stay in India at 2016. But with no other country, I expect so much impressions, because I was a part of the German delegation in 2019 with Chancellor Dr. Angela Merkel and with Prime Minister Modi, and this was so impressive for me. And it's changed completely my mind and my ideas what is possible. So back to your question, what we are doing, what's our job? The Schmidt-Kranz Group is a whole group with many companies, 12 companies, main companies with roughly 5,000 employees in different countries. And the country India, we spend a lot of time, and we are responsible for the human resources development. And when we start in 2016 in India, we start with the mining contract. And in one of our board meetings, I talked to our managing director of GHH, it's the name of the company, where we are the manufacturer of the vehicle. And this was special, the time that the idea was born, to qualify the service technicians, because it is necessary the availability of our vehicles to increase. And it's very important because our business models are changed now to not more longer only a manufacturer of underground vehicles. We changed to completely mining full provider. So from the manufacturer up to the operator to the financing. And so up to now, it's quite important that we share our knowledge in the whole group. And this is the point where ATP is responsible for. And this is that what we have do and done in the future.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us one of the biggest challenges that you faced when ATP, settled in India, just to round up this?
The biggest challenge is, of course, the different educational systems between Germany and India. the standards are different, and we must set up our education systems on any kind of base, on any kind of level. And the level in India that we have in our field, in our mining industry, it's not the level that I need to set our training up. So this was is quite special and really big challenge. And on the other side, for me, it is important to make business in another country. I have to know the culture and respect the culture. This is the first important point, and this was for my company, for my team, one of the important points. So we need a lot of time to stay in India to understand how we can handle all these challenges.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was our introduction part, and I wanted to elaborate, on the ease of or unease of doing business between India and Germany, the challenges, and we heard 4 experiences from our panelists. And now I would like to go to the next part, which is, there are some topics that should not be missed in the discussion, and I would like to pick up these. And my first question hence goes to Angela again. Angela, you have, you have quite some experience in female entrepreneurship. I would like to ask you, where do you locate women in the German business scene compared to the Indian one? And what can one country or culture learn from the other?
Yeah, well, so I don't have statistics at hand to support what I have been observing in the past. So one thing that I liked about India is that, Mr. Murthy had mentioned how complex different cultures even within India are, and it has a rich history. So I will cut it short, so from where it is coming. But one good thing about India is that it's very hierarchical, and it helps female leaders and female entrepreneurs in such a way that I have never observed in India a case where a female leader was questioned in a way they are questioned in Germany. So if someone gets promoted as a corporate leader, leader of a bank, or is a successful entrepreneur, German media will always question them, and also people are going to question them. I have not seen that level of questioning in India. So one thing that I have observed there is that if you are the boss or the leader of a company, then you are undoubtedly so. So you can even be the leader of a country much earlier than in Germany. That's on the, I would say, female entrepreneurship and leadership roles that I have seen. There are a lot of amazing female leaders in banks, PepsiCo, to name a few, or have been founded, like Biocon, by impressive women. What I would say for the overall country in comparison to Germany, I think Germany is more egalitarian. Given the numbers in India, I still feel that in particular in remote areas and rural areas, there is still a lot that can be done to improve the education of women and to allow them to get into the workforce and also to become entrepreneurs. What I always felt is striking about India is that compared to Germany, there are many more engineers, female engineers, that coming out of university and are graduating, and not just in engineering, also STEM in itself. I read a couple of weeks ago that I think 14% of all scientists in India are female, and 30% of all engineers are female. So I don't think that we can reach those numbers in Germany. I would assume that we are far away from those numbers. Interestingly, I do not see so many female entrepreneurs coming or building companies in the STEM or engineering field. So whenever I got pitch decks on the table from women, it was then still more in the traditional businesses one would allocate to women. So retail, and so forth. And I would like to see more, considering the high numbers that are graduating from India in those fields. But again, Germany is really far away from producing, so to say, such a large female graduates in the fields of STEM and engineers. The other thing which I have seen, which makes a huge difference in terms of the support system, is that I always felt that Indians are, as a family and as an ecosystem, more friendly towards families and working mothers. It is much easier to come back into the workforce and have a support system for your children. So I always felt that this made a huge difference, but that's more on a personal note and observation. So I hope it answers your question with regard to female entrepreneurships and leaders.
Thank you very much, Angela. I find that particularly interesting because, you know, the German women are said to be very emancipated, but then when it, you know, the share of women in Germany in leadership positions might be even larger than in India, but then you are absolutely right that in India, once you have gained a position, you know, you're not questioned anymore. And I find that sounds really, you know, really nice and very good for the person who has obtained this position. Just to add that information, you know, you were talking about females in technical you know, positions in India, and I know from the numbers in Hamburg that Indians who come from India to Hamburg and set up their business here and join German companies and Indian companies over here, there is also a large share in female Indian women, you know, who work for Airbus and for DZ. And just two examples that come to my mind are Fovia Tech and Talentgate Solutions. So two female startups, Indian startups that have settled in Hamburg. My next question would pick up a totally different topic, and it seems you know, it would be unnatural to not talk about COVID in these days because it is still very present. And I would like to address this question to Mohan Murthy. I would like to know, Mr. Murthy, how COVID has affected your company, and you know, if there are any learnings, could you share them with us?
Thank you very much. That's a good question, and it's time to reflect for the entire humanity on, you know, what are the lessons we learned. You know, when I was in Davos in January 2020, last year, at the World Economic Forum, frankly, none of the participants saw this coming. And the pandemic hit the world. Everyone, the rich, the poor, the superpowers, the indifferent, everyone was impacted. Now, during the world wars, we had bunkers to hide. And during the worst months of the pandemic, we had no place to hide in the entire earth. The only place to hide was our own homes. And in one simple word, I think the pandemic has been a great leveler for humanity, to allow us and to make us shed our ego and make us understand that we are all one as human beings. For the corporate world, there are several lessons, but I'll just mention a few. The first is that we have to be prepared for the unexpected. And the pandemic hit us very fast, and very large number of businesses had to shut down. But at the same time, a lot of businesses also succeeded and even grew during the pandemic time. I think the reason for this is probably the speed of decision making and the ability to be flexible and to adapt to the new situation. The second lesson is the renewed commitment to resilience of individuals as well as, you know, teams and of the entire company. The ability to bounce back, and this pandemic has shown that how several companies have bounced back The third lesson, if I can add, is the pandemic has shown how fragile, human beings are and human life is. And in this scenario, this new world that we see, there is a lot of need for bringing out the human qualities of empathy, love, grace, and to treat our families with love and care, our co-workers with love and care, our customers. And so every moment of our life, I think we need to understand that we need to go back to the basics of human values. And in my view, the humanity today is reminded, because of the pandemic and after effects, is reminded of the old Vedic dictum, which says in Sanskrit, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. And the meaning of this is, let the whole world be happy, let everybody be happy, because our happiness depends on the happiness of everybody around us. So this is the greatest lesson, I think, that has come about as a result of the pandemic. As for my own company, 2020 was a fantastic year for us. We raised capital investments into the company to the extent of $24 billion. We have now become a net zero debt company. And we are also now getting into newer areas of businesses. We are already in e-commerce, telecom, oil and gas, petrochemicals, etc. We have now got into, in a serious way, into retail and into life sciences, power storage, for example, battery technology, and into solar energy. From an oil and gas company which has been polluting, we are now going into alternate energy sources. So the entire business model of the company as a group is now shifting slowly but surely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moti. Dev, I would like to, adapt what Mr. Moti has just said about the bounce back of COVID-19. Could you share your company's experience during these, difficult times? Did you feel how fragile the economy was, and how did it affect your company?
Well, I think what Mr. Murthy just mentioned. These are the things actually that has happened, and we are no exception to that. So it's the same. The only difference is that as a bank, you have a portfolio, and it's not one particular industry. It's a mix of industries. So I'll come to that later. But before that, preparedness, and I used to think when we did business continuity plan and mock drills on that. So when I just entered the bank, I was thinking that this is all waste probably. But these are the times when you realize that business continuity plans are so important. So suddenly, over say a couple of weeks, businesses stopped working the way they used to. And that is when you realize that you step up those business continuity plans into place just in order to stay afloat in terms of making the organization work. And fortunately, we were prepared for that. We had plans in place as an organization, as a bank. And it was not a difficult task for us to migrate from a physical office to a virtual space. But having said that, yes, I'm talking about, say, the corporate banking side, it was not much of a problem. But on the retail banking side, back in India, so you have a branch presence. So you have customers walking into the branches. So those things were definitely affected. So, and actually they were credited, back in India, because of the nature, the way it spread, and suddenly for a brief period it was pretty high. So we have to keep our branches open, and that meant that maybe less number of employees, some rostering, but that was a challenge. But right now we can say that we have successfully managed to handle it, and we see that going forward, such kind of risks. Learning from this and how to take forward such an event of this nature happens. So with respect to the other side, that whether the bank got affected in terms of the business, some businesses have grown, some businesses have taken a hit, some have become resilient. So as a portfolio from the bank side, we have been largely safe. It's not affected that much. But yes, specific businesses might have taken a hit, which would have resulted some issues in a couple of exposures. Yeah.
Thank you. Robin, is your business one of these, that Dev just mentioned? How did you come out of the pandemic? Because I can't imagine that, mining, you can just go virtually.
No, not the mining. The mining was still working. We have some times in Corona, of course, that we have a shutdown. But this business is quite strong. But for our project in India, it was a huge challenge, and it slows down in Corona because we was not able to visit India. So we changed it and makes our qualification online with the employees there. And it needs a while, but after a little bit time, it works, and it speeded up. And now we are looking forward to go to India in November, hopefully, and speed it up our project.
Thank you very much. And this was the second round of questions. I promised a third round, and I would like to ask, because of the limited time, our panelists to wrap it up in 1 minute and give us very specific and short answers. And I will start reversely now. Robin, I will start with you. How would you see the future regarding the exchange of skilled workforce between India and Germany? Can Germany expect an influx of Indians in the coming years, which I would be personally very happy about that. But if so, what preparations have to be made?
In 1 minute, okay. I would like to try it. I think both sides has a big gain profit when we has exchange programs from, but not only the managing side and the programming side and so on. We also need exchange programs for blue collar workers and so on. And I think it's a mixed culture team is the best team that you can have, because you have different kind of views in this team, and this make profit for both sides. So I think we have a lot of possibilities, and to speed this up, we need these exchange programs, and I think it must be supported by the governments on both sides.
Thank you very much. The city of Hamburg itself and the Hamburg Representation Office in Mumbai will host, an internal initial event on the exchange of skilled workforce in November, because obviously we have also noticed that, more and more Indians coming to Hamburg. That's what the numbers are showing, and they are highly skilled. 41% of the Indians who work in Hamburg are categorized as highly skilled workforce, and we want to promote this. So we will sit together with, the Innenbehörde, so the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Social Affairs, and the Hamburg Welcome Center, and so on, to promote this whole topic and to take it up. Dev, my last question to you is, what change in your company excites you the most at the moment?
Well, I would not say change, but maybe a greater focus on the segments that we just discussed, coupled with, providing the right
products and solutions to the Indian diaspora in Germany for retail banking, launching the right products. So those are the kind of mix that excites me to continue and grow this business here.
Thank you very much. That was short. Mr. Mohan, my last question to you is, and it is very an unconventional one. If you had to compare your company to a German one, if possible at all, which would it be and why? I would like to ask this question, to make it easier for the German audience also to capture and understand your business.
Well, you really cannot compare any German company to our company because 35 years ago, we started in textiles, and then we did backward integration and moved into polyester manufacture and then manufacturing, petrochemicals, and then moved back again to oil and gas. So we did a huge backward integration for the last 30 years. And then now we are looking at the new economy businesses, like, as I said, retail, e-commerce, life sciences, and alternate energy, etc. So there is no comparison. In terms of size, yes, we can compare. There are several German companies which compare to our size of $130 billion. What amazes us in our company about Germany is the backbone of Germany, which is the Mittelstand of Germany. The way the Mittelstand is run, they are very quiet, very low profile. They don't go too much public, but at the same time, they are your superstars. And we in India, and especially in my company, we look at them with admiration, absolute admiration, because you have created such a fantastic kind of a foundation in your country. And you were talking about skills. These superstars are the people who create the skills, and they make these medium-sized companies into world stars. And they're very low profile. This is something I think we need to learn in India, to be humble, to have humility, and grow with grace. So this is the learning that we look at. We look at you with admiration in that sense. And in terms of skills, India lacks the skills. We still have to go a long way in terms of skilling our people. It is a very unfortunate thing because we have been talking about this in the Confederation of Indian Industry as well as in Indian industry in general, about the lack of skills. Now, what is happening today is a lot of German companies, multinationals, are moving into India, and they are talking about this. But a lot of work is being done by the Indo-German Chamber, the Director General is here, and by companies themselves, German companies and other American companies. Everybody now have their own internal skill development centers. So there's a lot being done, a lot of exchanges happening. But last point, and very important, is that in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was Russia, Germany, East Germany mainly, because of our proximity to Russia. And these were the countries which were the favorite of Indian students. Today, and then USA came in between, of course. A lot of people ran to USA. But today, what is happening is a lot of hundreds of Indian students are rushing into Germany. And they'd like to study in Germany. And many of them, believe it or not, are doing startups in Germany, successful startups, and creating employment in Germany. So I see an influx of a lot of Indians coming into, skilled Indians and educated Indians coming into Germany to fill your, the skills gap, and which is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moti. I knew you would not be able to, answer my question because it was a very tricky one. And of course, in Germany, the backbone of the society is more the Mittelstand, and in India, multinational conglomerates are, just a thriving factor for the Indian economy. My last question goes to Angela. And Angela, I would like to ask you, what is your top business
priority for, let's say, the coming year?
Does it mean personal ones or what I think one should look at?
Sorry, I mean, just from your personal point of view, what are your coming projects? Because you have reported, or I can read about you, that you are very hands-on, you are a doer. And I would like to know what your projects are.
Okay, so on a personal note, I'm going to stay in touch with the Indian startup ecosystem. I find it quite attractive. A lot of unicorns are being generated in India, and I would like to be a part of this journey that India is doing. Mr. Murthy said a lot of talents are coming to Germany, Indian talents. I also see a lot of Indians who have studied abroad going back to India because they see that India is offering them a huge market and a huge potential to solve Indian-related problems. So I find that very attractive. So that'll be my first priority. Then, of course, I'll observe the financial markets. I expect a lot of interesting listed companies to be generated in India soon. So there have been a few interesting steps being done there. The small market cap is very interesting. And then I'm also going to observe the crypto landscape in India a little bit more and a little bit deeper, because I do believe that in the payment and digital front, India has done a couple of leapfrogging things, and I find that very interesting. If I look at it from a less personal note, maybe more from a German note, and what I would like India to see or being regarded more is, I would like to see more trade between Europe and Germany and India, because I always feel that trade liberates and makes understanding between two countries easier. It also lifts the level of wealth, ideally in both countries that are doing trade, and it improves livelihood. And I would like to see India being less of a recipient of assistance transfer from Europe and be more significant business partner itself. So these are the things I'd like to see more.
Thank you very much, Angela, for this last point. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, I would like to close this session. We are 5 minutes over time. I think this is my Indian inner self. But we had 4 very interesting speakers, and, it was worth listening to them. So thank you very much for attending this panel. And with this, I would like to hand over to Lakshmi again. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much to our esteemed panelists, and also to Julie, the moderator, for that very insightful discussion. With your ideas and insights, you have definitely marked a significant step towards taking our bilateral relationship to a different dimension. And I'm sure both German and Indian industry would welcome that step. Now we come to our focus session, the Indo-German collaboration in AI. And before we start the session, I like to mention that I love reading inspirational quotes. And one of my favorite ones is by Steve Jobs. He said, "The people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are actually the ones who do it." So approximately 4 years ago, I met through my work with CII and the Consulate General of India in Frankfurt, one of the most successful Indian entrepreneurs in Europe, Dr. Gunjan Bharadwaj, who actually lives this Steve Jobs quote that I mentioned before. With the work that he does and his team does, and have been doing, many thousands of lives of sick patients are being transformed. Dr. Gunjan Bharadwaj studied at the prestigious IIT Bombay and came to Germany in 2005 to do his MBA, and he also did his PhD at the European Business School in Germany. His versatile and adventurous entrepreneurial journey started with the selling of bean bags in Mumbai while he was pursuing his bachelor's degree at the IIT Bombay. Dr. Bharadwaj has also worked as consultant at Ernst & Young and the Boston Consulting Group before he started this journey with InnoPlexis AG. And today, InnoPlexis AG has over 300 employees worldwide, and they provide advanced artificial intelligence and blockchain solutions that support all stages of drug development from the pipeline to the market. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Bharadwaj virtually. Gunjan, we look forward to hearing your inspirational story, but also give us some insight on where you see Indo-German collaboration in AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. It's always a great honor and pleasure to participate at such an event, and especially today, given I'm speaking from the place of my birth. I'm actually speaking from Bundi, Rajasthan, where I was born. Some of the crazy ideas can be explained from the place or the perspective where I grew up. It was probably the largest nuclear field in Asia, a nuclear power station close to a city in Rajasthan called Kota. And to my German friends, that's how I explain some of the craziness that I have. Because I grew up and some of my friends almost 7 kilometers from those 8-10 nuclear reactors. I went and studied at IIT Bombay, where I had the pleasure and honor of meeting some of the most amazing minds. Some of them are party to the unicorn party that India is seeing. Already in October this year, India has clocked 31 new unicorns, which is an amazing feat. Prime Minister Modi calls the 3 drivers of development as demography, democracy, and dynamism. And that's exactly what Germany needs. I mean, Germany has a demography that can be complemented by the Indian demography. India is the world's largest and most vibrant democracy. India shares the democratic values that Germany and Europe also live. And India provides the sense of dynamism. When you talk to the youth here, I always am supercharged meeting my friends, colleagues, seniors, mentors, people, entrepreneurs running various businesses. They all have a sense that this is our time. And all of this combined with the German pursuit and the idea of excellence, perfection, fascination about quality can create amazing products. There is a joke that I always quote. I came to Germany in 2005, and it was an accident. I, like many of my other friends, wanted to be in the United States, and I landed up in Germany. And to just understand the culture, the context, apart from what Hofstede and Trompenaar and others have published, the joke goes like this. You have a meteor that's going to hit the planet Earth, and you need to fire a rocket to destroy that meteor. And for that, a button needs to be pressed. And you have an American, a German, and an Indian. The American is concerned about pressing the button, output orientation. The German says, it doesn't matter whether you press the button or not. What is important is how you press the button, process orientation. And the Indian says he doesn't care whether you press the button or how you press the button. What is important for him or her is who presses the button, people orientation. It's a different cultural context, but if you could combine that love for precision, that fascination for quality, with the dynamism that India provides or the Indian youth provides, you can create wonders. My own journey after consulting, to be honest, when I landed up in Germany, it was a tough start, given all my friends and some of my mentors told me that this is a country where you would take 3 times longer. You should have chosen either UK or US, which Mr. Murthy also mentioned. Now it's different. Now we have around 40,000 Indian students coming to Germany each year. It was not the case then. And I was a bit, wondering whether I have made the right decision of starting off in this country. But I got the most fantastic mentors, teachers, friends, colleagues who taught me a lot. And in this journey in 2010, my first boss, my best friend, he was diagnosed with cancer. And this led to a journey wherein I experimented with a friend of mine for 5 years and set up Innoplexis in 2015. And it has been a fascinating journey since then. In terms of AI, you need 4 drivers. The first driver for AI is computational power, which is now easily available. It's very cost effective. The second driver for AI are algorithms. People use, there are a lot of algorithms already there. Actually, AI started, the way we understand AI, the development started in the early 70s, but people didn't have the computational capacities. So a lot of these algorithms were not actually used. So algorithms are there, and some of the great work is already being done in some of the leading research institutes. The third important driver is data. You need structured data, because only once you have this data structured in a context, you can analyze that and use that analysis to predict things, to do prescriptive analytics, to suggest what needs to be changed, and so on. And that's where the challenge starts. So in Europe, we are in the GDPR paradigm, and the data security legislations led many people to believe that the bus of AI has already left the station, and Europe, or Germany in particular, can never catch up. And the giants from the US and China are going to have that pole position and maintain that pole position in AI. We found a way that respects data security, data privacy, and at the same time provides structured data in context to do analytics that could really change the paradigm in healthcare. Now, it's the same for India. India doesn't have data pools. We are looking at now structuring the data, healthcare data, and PM Modi has started an initiative. But again, from an Indian perspective, given we are a democratic country, data privacy and data security challenges are similar to what we have in Europe. And there we are working together, the colleagues in Germany, in German companies, as well as companies, together with both the governments, in terms of defining standards for data, data sharing, collaborating with respect to data, but also structuring some of the essential data sets that fuel AI development. The fourth and the last driver for AI are people. You need data scientists And you need software engineers because you can create proofs of concept. But in order to really create scalable products that are industry defining, you need to scale these proofs of concept into software products. And you therefore need software engineers. And India provides an amazing pool of super talented, highly talented data scientists and software engineers. And we see there is a huge demand for the same in Germany that India could bridge. So in all these four drivers at a high level with respect to the demographic challenges that Germany has, the shared democratic values and the dynamism that India offers. But from an AI perspective, the availability of data, 1.3 billion Indians. If you could create an architecture which in a GDPR compliant way, or with respect to an architecture that respects data privacy and data security, if you could create a data sharing mechanism wherein you even provide value to those who generate this data, you could create an AI paradigm wherein both these countries can share data, or the companies can benefit from this training data to train their algorithms. And lastly, as I said, the fourth driver of AI, people, India offers a significant talent pool that could really fuel the path towards AI leadership for Europe or Germany in particular. I'll give lastly a very concrete example of where we have used ideas, disruptive ideas from our India team to create transformational or industry defining products or platforms for the entire world, starting from Europe. So when my friend was diagnosed with cancer in 2010, there were three fundamental questions which didn't find ready-made answers. Who are the experts for his specific kind of cancer and disease state? What are the alternatives that he or she had at that point in time? And where are clinical studies taking place for specific immunotherapies where he could potentially participate? We didn't find these answers, and that led to the development of this AI at scale platform that Innoplexis uses to provide insights and support drug discovery and development. Last year, we launched an app for patients that have been diagnosed with cancer, because over the past years, we saw again and again, no matter what capital you have, what network you have, whether you live in Germany, Switzerland, United States, or in India or Brazil, everyone who is diagnosed with such a life-threatening disease has the same three questions. So we launched an app called Curia, which was developed entirely in India, in our development center based out of Pune. And Curia was first launched in Germany. Within 11 months of its launch in Germany, Italy, Spain, UK, Switzerland, we have over 325,000 users. And we are providing hope to all these patients who were striving for a light that could be an answer to these questions for them. Now we go a step further. And again, here, the inspiration of creating a service that could really help these patients came from India. The question was, you may know who is an expert, but how can you get a second opinion? Because in India, we know practicing oncologists are, for a population of 1.3 billion people, around 6,000 to 7,000. So there we wanted to use AI, we used the technology to create a second opinion service that could provide a qualified independent second opinion. There are around 600 cancer types to cancer patients in India and in other countries in Latin America and GCC, etc. But our Indian colleagues insisted the price point for this second opinion service has to be 10,000 rupees. around 150 euros. And that's how we started building the product, and using AI and other technologies, we have been able to create that. Not just that, we are rolling out currency. Angela mentioned the crypto landscape in India called OncoCoin, which would be a currency utility token that patients would get if they were to license their clinical data to any drug discovery program. If they were to license their data to any drug discovery program, and they could use this currency again to avail some of these services. So this is an example how Indian dynamism and demand in the market and the realities can help you design, using capabilities in Europe, a product which could really solve something of importance for the entire humanity, for patients in palliative care fighting for their lives, and truly create an impact. I believe, again, Germany, with its qualities, capabilities, democratic values, together with Indian dynamism, can create very successful partnerships. Innoplexis is just one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunjan, for sharing that inspiring story. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're aware that the Indo-German joint statement as part of the intergovernmental consultations in November 2019 was a milestone, actually, in strengthening the Indo-German partnership in artificial intelligence. The Fair Forward Project AI for All initiative, launched by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, is doing a lot of work in this area. Gaurav Sharma is currently the advisor on artificial intelligence with the German Agency for International Cooperation, also known as GIZ India. He has 15 plus years of experience in 3 sectors: development cooperation, international and security affairs, and consulting in information technology. I'm also very pleased to mention, Gaurav, that CI has an MOU with the GIZ for many years now. We look forward to your speech on the work that GIZ does in this area of AI collaboration with the Indian subcontinent.
Thank you so much. I think I'm audible, so I hope I can begin. But thank you for the opportunity. I would like to take where I think Gunjan left, and it's important to highlight where some of the areas where Fair Forward as a mandate came into its own origins. So we are actually, as mentioned by Ms. Mohan, we are an extension of the GIZ, of the German National AI Strategy, into the international cooperation mandate, and we are a global project working in 6 countries. We work in Africa in 5 countries, and India is one of our partner countries. So there are very many similarities between the German national strategy and the AI strategy in India. From an Indian standpoint, Indian AI strategy has a universal mandate. So we have in India, the strategy says it has a comprehensive approach. It has focus on very many key sectors such as agriculture, healthcare, education, climate change. Then it has a mandate for benefiting the marginalized and the low and rural section of the society, that is AI for everyone. The government has a responsibility for creating enabling environments in India, and the private sector is to lead the implementation and adoption of use cases. And in the end, there is also the mandate for data storage and privacy as a national priority. If you look at the German AI strategy, the addressing of these global challenges, whether in agriculture, healthcare, environment, or climate change, are specifically mentioned. In addition, the German government also says that it wants to create enabling environments, and it wants to foresee much more research and investment in startup community and making these startups more AI savvy. Plus, AI strategy is also a central component to implement digitization within Germany. And the mandate is not only Germany, but in collaboration with European Commission. And lastly, there is also promotion of AI as in terms of its explainability, accountability, and decision-making systems. So coming on to the India-specific focus, where FairForward is actually doing things and actually taking strides, we are trying to do three things, and we are actually supporting what India's AI strategy is looking at. So we are trying to support the bottlenecks which are looking at enabling local AI innovation systems. We are trying to create data sets which are important, as Gunjan was also referring it, to create more open and sustainable culture of creating new solutions through AI. And then we are looking at capacity building programs and also enabling an environment where there is more use of AI driven technologies and toolkits which can impact sectors like agriculture and and others in the frame, like disaster management, etc. In particular, as we are only a year-old project which has been running in India, we undertook initially big focus on languages. Like languages is like, if I give you a very simple example, if you take Alexa and Google Assist, they are only working in 7 or 8 languages in India. Now, India has a mandate of 5,000 plus languages with so many dialects. So what we did is we said we will create a basic minimum threshold of data set for 9 Indian languages, which are also, some of them are mainstream like Telugu and Marathi and Hindi, but some of them which are not mainstream like Chhattisgarhi, Maithili, and others, which will actually enable the local AI startup ecosystem to create a solution on top of those small, that minimum threshold data sets. This we are doing with Indian Institute of Sciences, and this we are doing to create text-to-speech data sets. So what Alexa speaks back to you. And in this, our partnership is with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which are doing speech-to-text, which is what you speak to Alexa. So this is like, comprehending, what you call completing the circle in terms of languages. The second of our domains is on Earth observation, and that is satellite imagery. So if you see a lot of startups in India, and there are very many who utilize satellite specific data sets, they use European space agencies data sets through Sentinel initiatives, or the US-based initiative like Landsat. So these Earth observation data, and India is one of the sort of the biggest space sort of agencies working and collecting and launching so many satellites. So our sort of intention is, with the new space remote sensing policy coming into place, and with the new policies under the government trying to open up data sets, how Earth observation data sets of Indian satellites can be opened up and made available, so that applications can be developed on top of that. So these are only on the side of the larger companies that we are working. We did undertake 2 or 3 studies to really understand the Indian landscape market. One on the languages side, because if you hear, India does take a lot of initiatives, but in silos, in pockets. So you have IIT Bombay, you have IIT Chennai, you have IITs all over India. Then you have other sort of technical institutes which are collecting these data sets, but on a smaller research-based scale. How we can really bring it together to create a sort of a repository or open access repository, which is also, as I think Gunjan was specifying, there is a need for standardization of these data sets, refining of these data sets, and annotation of these data sets to be made easily usable and inter-transferable between, so that there is no minimum basic standardization which is available. So a lot of data within India, which is even being collected now in, say, sectors like healthcare or in agriculture, is very unstandardized. So you need to have that minimum standardization. So, and the last part is that we are also trying to work on topics like ethics and AI. And as India is one of the I mean, I think the biggest complex challenges in terms of diversity. So ethics and AI, and what do we really can do for AI developer community? So again, looking at a startups community, if we, the startups don't have a data security officer or a data information security officer when they begin with, or an ethics officer. So somebody who can really, this small guide, which we are now would also be turning into an e-learning courseware, will help them to understand what they should be made aware of in terms of transparency, accountability, bias. So this is a basic general guide that we are trying to provide from a practitioner's approach to AI developers in India. And having, this is a continually sort of growing portfolio for us, that tech and society, and trying to target these essential areas where we can help the Indian governments on certain domains like responsible AI, or how how do you really create data storage capabilities, because India wants to create these sovereign data storage capabilities, and keeping all data inside India and not trying to keep it in servers outside of India. And lastly, on parameters of how would you make digital literacy come to life on AI. And now these are again being done on sort of the we have a platform called Athingi.ai, which is a BMZ funded platform where there are very small modules for students and anybody interested in learning. And we are trying to collaborate also with National Skills Development Corporation of India to have these open source coursewares on their e-skills platform. So there are these initiatives coming to pipeline. I would rest with my last comment also that in the next years, coming years, at least 2-3 years, there is a focus on AI and climate change. And in this, we would really like to see how we can sort of advance the Indo-German cooperation on the climate change side, because this is potentially a big ticket item where a lot of cooperation can take place. So thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for sharing insights about the project you have from GIZ. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Q&A session with both the speakers from the AI session. The moderator of this session will be Mr. Sanjay Tambe. Sanjay actually came to Germany long before the new generation IT batch came to Germany. So he's been in Germany for a long time now. He is senior partner at Longhouse Partners GmbH and is also the president of the Indian Institute e.V. So the Indian Institute is the oldest organization of its kind in Germany and has devoted itself to the cultural exchange between Germany and India. The society was established in 1929 as the Institute for Cultural Relations Indischer Ausschuss bei der Deutschen Akademie. Activities came to a halt during the war, of course, but resumed in 1946. Since 1960, the organization has been led under a new legal form as the Indian Institute. Sanjay ji, we look forward to your Q&A session with our esteemed speakers, Dr. Gunjan Bharadwaj and Gaurav Sharma.
Thank you, Lakshmiji, and esteemed speakers who have been here, panelists. I'm very happy to be a part of this session in the German Indian Business Summit. Thanks to Rajesh ji and the Consulate General of India in Hamburg. I hope everybody can hear me. My sound is okay. I've been traveling, unfortunately. I wanted to be there in Hamburg to see all of you personally. I know Gunjan ji, I've met him, had the luck to meet him a few years back, and nice to see him again here. It's a very interesting session which has been given to me. I'm very thankful for that. AI and the subject which was handled today by Gaurav ji and Gunjan ji. I have based, due to the time limitation which we have, I've based my questions on 5 points, which I would like to just mention here before I go further. I've been involved a little bit in the startup, Indo-German startup space in the last few years, and I've been acting as a mentor for few companies who are coming from India to Germany, as well as the other way around. And I travel a lot to India, so I understand the Indian environment of startups, etc. Also, I'm an ardent follower of yoga and Ayurveda, which is a very heritage, high-level science, I would say, which is becoming more popular in Germany. So my question will also be regarding the sustainability or the acceptability for you both from this perspective. I've heard 2-3 good examples. One example was where Gunjanji was mentioning how he came to his different projects and the Innoplex, and what, according to him, are the 4 important pillars of this, AI, health, the data, and whatever he mentioned. I liked it very much that he mentioned also an algorithm as well as the people as a talent pool. Not only as a talent pool, but that is an important pillar for collecting data. So if you see from today's business perspective, because this is a German-Indian business summit, I would also, give it a twist for business. There is always a price advantage for making things happen in India, may it be for India itself or may it be for Germany. So from that perspective, what can you say, Gunjanji, about the pricing structure in your domain? Like if you're talking about AI, is it more cost effective to do research as well as implement solutions in India, price-wise, or in Germany?
So, Sanjay ji, thanks for your question. There are 2 aspects to AI. One is the domain itself, because I don't believe in general AI, and many other people don't believe in general AI. AI needs to have the context. So you can't have an IBM Watson who can play God. You need to understand the context of medicine. You need to understand the context of financial services and so on. So if you were to do that, there are 2 parts. One is the domain, and the second one is the analytics. I believe with respect to the talent pool and the engineering capabilities, India far outweighs Germany in terms of the opportunities that India provides and the quality of talent India provides. But with respect to specific domains, like in drug discovery and development, Germany far outweighs in terms of the quality of talent, etc. So it essentially becomes how you marry the 2. And it's not just, I can tell you, making medical experts work together with data scientists is a huge challenge. Now add your medical experts coming in from a German cultural setting, and working with your data scientists who are Israeli, American, or Indian cultural setting. It just adds another layer of complexity. But all in all, domain in Germany and data analytics, data science, and engineering in India. That's how I would put it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's actually I can understand that very much. Relating to data, we spoke about data protection, which is a big issue in Germany, seems to be a little bit less in India. I personally experienced a very weird thing a few weeks back. One of my friends was sick, and he shared his medical reports to me from the hospital. And suddenly on the 4th page onwards, it was not his data, it was a different patient. So the report was almost 40 pages, blood reports and all different reports. And suddenly the 4th page onwards, up to 10, 15 pages, it looked like same as his report, but the name was different, the age was different. So I said, Ari, this is a different patient, which is talking about in the report. So have the nurses or the doctor, by mistake read the data and thinking that he's going to be required to be in hospital for 10 longer days or whatever. Why isn't he being released? So this is data protection in one way. It's gone the wrong way, I would say. How are these things dealt with in the electronic sense? I mean, can that be a potential threat for AI in India? I would extend that question further on so that it can be answered in a better way, because the reliability is one thing, which I was also going to ask, like assurance of quality. Now it has happened to me several times also that while sending a message, the electricity went or the network was suddenly gone and my message could not go and I had to write it again or whatever, the calls break, etc. So do these things, like just one example which I mentioned before, as different data was suddenly appearing in the report which was printed. And the second is such things like technical hazards like electricity or the network falling out. Does it pose a potential threat to the AI which can be, affect the quality of the final result? Gunjanji, again, the same question for you.
Sanjay, thanks again, very pertinent. I would quip, in Germany, it's impossible for a patient to get 40 pages of his entire medical records at one go. It's a different problem altogether because his records would be in 16 different registries, and it's just impossible to normalize and get the entire medical record at one place. India has a different problem. As you mentioned, the sanctity of data and really training various touch points to respect data privacy and security, as well as creating those controls is a challenge. The solution that we have found out is combining AI and blockchain when you build this AI infrastructure. So when we are trying to create a token for those who license their clinical data, if you have to give a token to a patient, you need to do his or her KYC. And then you can match whether the person with the same identity, because you have done KYC, also has these medical records. So I believe technology can help us solve those problems. The second part is, as you mentioned, the infrastructure. Sometimes you have electricity shortages, etc. Here again, I have to quip, I'm speaking to you on a 5G connection. In Germany, we are in Middle Ages in terms of digitization. India is far ahead. And I'm not saying this because Mr. Murthy was speaking before, but the kind of infrastructure, optical fiber that is being laid here in Rajasthan, in Bundi, in Kota by Reliance, by some of the other telecom players is world-class. So in some of the things, India is a million light years ahead of Europe, and Europe needs to catch up. But India also, because of power shortages, etc., needs to have an offline solution. It has to be an online offline solution. And many of the projects in terms of diagnostics that have been launched by HMRI and other institutes in India, not-for-profits in India, combine both of them. So you are spot on that any solution with respect to data sharing, collaborating on data, analytics in the healthcare space or any other space has to have an offline component as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Yes, that explains actually a lot of my doubts. The next question would be addressed to Gauravji, because he mentioned an interesting thing about different languages which are being addressed in his project portfolio. I see that the hardware which is developed like an iPhone or different devices which are being developed in the US, since it has a particular programming language, it can be used anywhere and universally used anywhere in the world, although it's a different language which only is known by the programmer. Now we are talking about languages which are different in India alone. Several languages are there. Are you trying to find out things like, I mean, I heard a lot about Sanskrit being a very universal language, and also Germans are very much interested in learning Sanskrit because it seems to be a very old, first of all, old, but very precise language. Are there any uses of this heritage knowledge which is given by our culture or the Indian culture in this context of AI? One part of the question. And second part of the question was ethics, which you mentioned. I heard from a previous example from Mr. Murthy that from his point of view, the success factors are different when he also announced this joke that what is important in India. He says not when the button is pressed and how it is pressed, but who pressed it. So ethically, this is a big question. When you try to disclose something as a, I would say as a useful result or a useful process for in the AI, which can be useful for anyone in India. How does that ethical factor come in, where if you have to tell it in different languages, or the result has to be shared by Shah Rukh Khan or Prime Minister so that people accept that? Or what is the quality of result which you have to disclose in India so that the acceptability comes in? Gauravji.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay ji. I think on the question of languages, so Europe has this universe, this I think this language standardization, their pool set, where I think I am getting the right words for it, but they have a universal pool for French, Spanish, German, and they have created this architecture where they are trying to then build and do the research on it. India does not. So our focus was to bring at least a basic minimum. So coming back to Gunjan's question. So how much data is required to really take on research and create applications for AI? With the advent of new processing power, as computational powers, as Gunjan was saying, and the new algorithmic speed, we have analyzed, at least on a with BMGF, that a scale of 1,000 hours of minimum collection of voice data plus text-to-speech data of say 100 hours is suitable, and then on top of it 50 hours or 60 hours for any domain specific as use case, you can build some sort of applications which can help you. For example, building a voice-enabled chatbot for COVID-19 in a language, say in the east of India, Nagamese or Arunachal Pradesh, which is not really having any resource pool of text or literature or any news items, or you can't really scrap data from internet, right? So how do you really do that? We are trying to address that particular area, that how we can either save some languages like this, because these are very colloquially spoken languages. I'll give you again example of, we are collecting very simple data sets for Mundari, which is a tribal language in the east of India, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, and Gondi might also come into play, right? So there again, and there are activists like or say NGOs which are trying to create these data sets for us, from the ground truth. So it's very difficult to answer your question whether we would be able to, get some sort of parity with regards to Sanskrit. Is actually quite okay because it still has a Hindi component, a large proponent of it, which is equivalent to the West requirements on iPhones or anything. But we are just trying to create that minimum threshold so that startups find it interesting to create applications to send to these 2.5 million population speaking Mundari and say, yes, we can give you some basic primary education in science and mathematics over a phone. And that too, also Gunjan's question, also we'd require something like Cloud Edge, which is not connected to the internet and on an analog phone, so that he can really do things, and these technologies might come into play. So second part of the question on ethics and AI, I think India is so unequal a society. So there are experts, you can say, of the cream of computer science, and then there are these huge grassroots who really don't understand their fundamental rights. So for them to understand what exactly is a consent-based data collection is quite hard. It's very, very difficult. So what the new schemes in Government of India is also looking at is incentivization of data collection through financial gains. So if you are trying to collect the data from a farmer of how he is sowing up his seeds, what practices is he following, there might be a financial compensation for him to create that incentivization to give him that data, and he gets benefit. It is very hard in the medical domain. In GIZ, we do have an Indo-German universal health coverage program. In an AI format, we have kept away from it. It's very, very hard, very difficult to bifurcate that line of data privacy for us. Lastly, I would end with this thing that as a project, we believe in open sourcing and sustainability. So everything that we want to collect should be in a common license 4.0, so anybody can share and be available on GitHub, both data as well as models. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Gunjaji, would you like to say something about the same question? Anything which we missed? Yeah.
No, I concur with Gauravji. But we believe humanity's health, especially those living in underserved countries, India still spends less than 2% of GDP on healthcare. So we need to move the cheese. And that's where the power of AI can really make a difference in terms of diagnostics capabilities, in terms of telemedicine, in terms of serving 80% of the population who have so-called normal ailments and providing them healthcare on the last mile. So we believe this is possible, and this can be possible, right, again, by incentivizing those who create data. And I trust the wisdom of the masses. I mean, India is a democracy. If we trust the poorest of poor's power of vote, why can't we trust his or her wisdom of giving his or her data against an incentive? I believe data is a fundamental right, or ownership of data is a fundamental right of every citizen. And that's where even Germany, I mean, in Germany, we had a discussion that the healthcare data should belong to the state because the state subsidizes healthcare. I found it to be a completely nonsensical and communistic argument, because by that sense, humans you support in society, you should also harvest their organs as a state. Government of India is starting certain schemes. Arogya India will have a data infrastructure, and I believe Germany should also move into that direction.
Okay, thank you. I have my last question. We are almost done. The last question would be the changing structures. Like we see that India is changing much faster. So whenever I travel to India, I see that buildings are popping up, people are doing these projects, and venture capital scenario is boosting up like anything. Unicorns are coming up. In Germany, it seems to be a little slower. So what is the life cycle of an AI activity or a project? Like, how do you judge it when you forecast, or when you budget a project, or when you decide to do something in an AI project? What plans do you have as a life cycle? Is it in years, months, days, or how can you say something about this?
If I may take it first, Sanjay ji, we prototype iteratively. It's rapid prototyping. But we always think of AI platforms in paradigms of 3 to 5 years. Because if you want to create something that's industry defining, the kind of data ecosystem, I'll give you a concrete example. In 2010, when I spoke to the German Cancer Society, saying, we are planning trips to Mars or sending spacecrafts to get pictures of Mars, and you have patients in Germany who don't even know who is the expert for a specific kind of cancer. All websites say everybody's an oncologist and is an expert in 10 types of cancers. The same German Cancer Society, when I talk to them now and I ask them, what's the future of cancer care in this country? I was told patients are going to trade their sequencing data like stocks. That's the future. So, see, the complete paradigm has shifted. Things that they said, oh, AI, machine learning, it's too high tech. We don't understand that in 2010. Within 10 years, they are thinking of trading data or a security with an underlying data set. So you always have to think in terms of paradigms in 3 to 5 years. And that's how we plan our platforms. One last thing. I believe you talked of change, Sanjay ji. One thing that India needs to be conscious of is its values. I think it's very important that the youth of India, with all this dynamism, this consumerism coming up, with all the development that we see, we don't lose ourselves. Because if we lose our values, and we have a phenomenal value system, then it will become a challenge.
True, absolutely true. Thank you. This is a very interesting answer. Gauraji, I would request you to also respond to this.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Sanjay. I think the argument for development cooperation like GIZ, which is basically technical cooperation partners, is we piggy bank on things which are already happening, right? So we can't really start. So, for example, we are giving, we are trying to finalize a grant with vadwani.ai.org. which are already working on applications like Cotton Ace app for identification of cotton-based worms, in India for farmers. Cotton is a big business in India. 3 million farmers are dependent. So they took 3 years of time to really make this app under the Government of India's leadership. And now they are perfecting it with collection of more data sets from initially they did for 50,000 farmers. Now they want to scale up to say 1 million farmers in the next 2 years. So that's where we are coming in saying, oh, we can support you, say, of opening up and creation of this data set for 25,000 farmers as a GIZ portfolio. That's where we are trying to invest. So we as a technical cooperation, we really don't invest in new projects, but we try to piggyback on initiatives which are already taking shape. Also with NGOs. So again, there are multiple. I will leave it at that. But thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much for this quick session. I hope I have not exceeded the time too much and giving me this opportunity to talk to both of you as experts. And it was a very enchanting, session. I liked it very much. Thank you. Over to Lakshmiji.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay ji, and also to both the speakers, Gunjan ji and Gaurav ji, for your time and sharing your knowledge with us. Sanjay ji, I think you touched up. So now, ladies and gentlemen, prettiest is actually a very, very small word to describe the beauty and the glory of the Indian state of Rajasthan. Rajasthan is the land of palaces, forts, vibrant colors, festivals, and cultural activities. The variety of food, the soothing music, the costumes, all the things enhance the beauty of Rajasthan. The people of Rajasthan are simple and full of warmth and hospitality. The monuments of Rajasthan tells the story of their pride and glory. And I'm sure many of you have visited and can relate to what I'm actually saying now. And for those who have not visited Rajasthan, please travel to India. It's possible again and see the beautiful state. Over the last few years, the Rajasthan government has adopted several new policies to facilitate new investments and strengthen the industrial infrastructure. Even with from CII, we closely work with the state of Rajasthan and support in presenting the immense opportunities that German companies have in this state. We are extremely delighted to welcome Rajasthan as our Indian partner state today. It's my honor to welcome Ms. Rukmani Rao, Additional Commissioner of Investments and NRI's Bureau of Investment Promotion and Executive Director, Rajasthan State Industrial Development and Investment Corporation, Government of Rajasthan. We look forward to your address on the opportunities for German companies in the beautiful state of Rajasthan.
Unmute, please.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be part of the German Indian Business Summit. I'd like to thank the consulate for giving us this opportunity to represent the state of Rajasthan and share with you all the investment opportunities that are here. I would also like to start off by taking this opportunity to inviting you all to the investment summit of the state that is happening in the month of January on 20th and 21st of January 2022. We are the first state after the pandemic who's holding a physical conclave exclusively to promote investment in the state of Rajasthan. I'd like to start off my address by sharing with you all the target sectors that the state of Rajasthan right now is focusing on so that our investment can grow. Automotives, energy, chemicals, petrochemicals, ESDM, and IT, medical devices, pharma, mining, and textile. These are some of the sectors that Rajasthan state as a promotion is focusing on to ensure that there is more investment coming into the state. I'll also like to share with you all something unique that is happening in the state of Rajasthan. We are coming up with policy-specific papers to support the entrepreneurs who are interested in making investment in the state. We're going to have policies specific to these sectors so that we can have sector specific growth. Not just that, not just we're going to have policy papers, but we're also going to have area specific development. So we're going to launch a policy during this investment summit. And along with that policy, we're going to specify the zone in which you can invest in Rajasthan for that policy. And then you can get all the benefits that the state is giving in terms of not just investment capital subsidy, but over and above that in terms of other incentives that can be given to the entrepreneurs so that their journey into the state and their investment can become a smooth transition. Coming to Germany specifically, Germany and India continue to have very healthy bilateral relationships with each other. The heads of the governments are in touch with each other on various platforms, G20 to be more specific, even recently. According to DPIIT, Germany holds the 7th position with respect to the FDI investments that come into India. Recently, in the state of Rajasthan, Saint-Gobain has invested about 1,200 crores for their glass factory unit that has been set up in Bhiwadi in our northern part of our state, which is the NCR region. There are various agreements and corporations that have been signed between the two countries. Apart from Saint-Gobain, Bosch and Siemens are other companies which are German originated companies, and they have their base in Rajasthan. We would like to also state that ours is a state where we have country-specific SEZs also. For example, in Alwar district of Rajasthan, we have Japanese SEZ, where we have an infrastructure developed for our Japanese friends, and all the Japanese companies come there and invest. And we ensure that a single window clearance system with respect to all the clearances at the government level are done under one roof. So Rajasthan is a state which is known not just for abundance of its labor, but very peaceful in terms of law and order, and very politically stable state. In that context, with this overview, a little bit more about our state, which will help you all to understand the positive attributes that our state has, and also the growth opportunities that our state provides. Rajasthan is the largest state in India, which has 10% of India's area. So land is abundantly available in the state. We have about 5.6% of the population of India, which resides in Rajasthan. Now, you may ask me why Rajasthan? So let's talk in figures. Firstly, the strategic location of Rajasthan. The state connects India's east, west, and north-south corridors. 39% of the dedicated freight corridor is passing through the state of Rajasthan, and 70% of actually the state is benefiting from this freight corridor. 58% of the DMIC, that is the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, is in the influence zone of the state. We also have very easy access to the entire northern region of the country. And out of the 44 identified Bharatmala economic corridors, 8 of them are passing through Rajasthan. Having said that, I'll say that we have the third largest network of national highways that pass through our state. And not just in highways, we are also the second largest in terms of connectivity through rail. And also we rank first in EPI in the landlocked states of India. We also have 9 IECDs and 1 air cargo complex. We have availability of airport, and the connectivity to the western ports of Gujarat through its highways is very good. And now with DMIC, it's going to become even better. Also, there's something very interesting that the state of Rajasthan enjoys. 2 of our districts, which are Bharatpur and Alwar, they come in the NCR region. Hence, they get the benefits of the national capital region. So not just connectivity wise, but even policy wise and infrastructure wise, this is a huge advantage when an investment has to come to the state of Rajasthan. With terms of resource advantages, we are a very power surplus state. We are the sole producer of zinc and lead in the country. We are the second largest mineral producing state. We are second largest producer of crude oil, oilseeds, and coarse cereals. We're the largest producer of mustard, bajra, spices, and coriander. And we're the largest producer of medicinal and aromatic crops. And apart from that, we have the largest available land reserves in comparison to any other state in India. And also renewable energy is another aspect where Rajasthan state leads the country. National level, we've been awarded for 3 consecutive years for skill development initiatives that the government has been taking. We also are emerging as a national hub with highest number of universities. So we have best universities in terms of education sector, higher education sector in our state. Around 1/3 of the chartered accountants in India come from the state of Rajasthan. And we have dedicated skill universities. We have presence of major big Indian education institutes like IIT, IIM, AIMS, BITS Pilani, NIFT, FDDI, MNIT. We, like I had earlier also said, in terms of law and order, Rajasthan enjoys a very peaceful reputation. And recently, with the government of India has taken out a ranking where the top 40 industrial areas in India have been ranked. Out of that, it's my pleasure to share with you all that 17 of them come from the state of Rajasthan. So, this I feel is the strategic advantage of our state. And now I'd like to come to some of the prominent sectors where the state government is focusing and ensuring that there is ease of investment. First is the automobile and the electric vehicle. The government is coming up with a new electric vehicle policy, and this will be opportunity for EV, not just EV industries, but also automobile and auto component industry, e-charging and swapping station industry, and all the ancillary industries that are linked to this. Coming to renewable energy, world's largest fully operated solar power park, which is 14,000 acre solar park. It is in Jodhpur, and another one is in Jaisalmer. This makes Rajasthan the leader of renewable energy in India. Apart from that, we also have mines, minerals, and ceramics, which have special ceramics zones identified and dedicated only for this sector. So if any investment is coming in this sector, we give them, facilitate their land acquisition and setting up the industry in those zones. The opportunities in mining, mineral extraction, glass insulators, and China tableware, bioceramics is extending day by day because of our natural reserves that help this industry to grow here, and 2, because of the state policies. Another sector that Rajasthan really focuses on traditionally also is the textile and the apparel. So I'd also like to share with you all that we are setting up a textile park. Next year it will be launched, and we're also setting up actually 2 of them because the growth of this sector over the years has been immense. Another is the very prominent sector in the state of Rajasthan is the chemical and the petrochemical. We are the largest producer of onshore crude oil in the country. We have a proposed petrochemical investment region, which is the PCPIR, for the downstream players and other industries around the refinery, for industries related to input and output of the refinery and petrochemical complex. This is a 9 MMTPA refinery and petrochemical complex, which is under construction and going to be launched in another 2-3 years. And we've already made an area around it as our industrial area. The development of that area has begun. The infrastructure of roads and power lines work has started. So this is going to be a big project for the state government of Rajasthan. And there is huge opportunity for the textiles, fabrics, tires, paints, adhesive, other plastics manufacturing, and vehicle spare parts, and many more industries to set up their units around this PCPIR. Another area after the pandemic where the state government has really focused on is the medical health and the pharmaceutical sector. We're setting up a medical devices park in Kota. Apart from that, we have another proposed devices park in Jodhpur. Work is happening in a very fast pace in this sector. Because we're the largest producer of medicinal crops, and we have easy availability of zinc and gum and silica and aloe vera. And even when it comes to oxygen and other plants which we are using to ensure that the pandemic, the way it has struck us, and we are well prepared next time. So in that context, a lot of development has happened in this sector, and the government of Rajasthan is promoting this sector in a very big way. Here, I like to also tell you that the government of Rajasthan has a RIPS policy, that is Rajasthan Investment Promotion Scheme, which gives the basic benefits in terms of investment subsidy and other incentives to our investors. But for those who want to invest a bigger amount, for example, above 100 crores, those companies are given a special package, which is called the customized package by the state government, which are given the benefits of RIPS 2019, but above and all will be given any other incentive that the company deems fit to ensure that their journey and their investment in the state of Rajasthan is smooth. We also are focusing very strongly on the IT sector, and there's huge opportunity for e-commerce startups and KPOs and BPOs and software development in our state. Even in the ESDM, we are launching in this investment summit a special policy for ESDM. We have 2 EMC parks at Salarpur and Karoli in Alwar district, 2 electronic complexes, Jodhpur and Kota, and we have huge availability of skilled labor and also the inputs that are required for this sector. We have one-stop facility in the state of Rajasthan where all the 14 departments in the ministries who are involved in clearances that need to be given to set up an industry are set up at one place. So all the clearances will be made under one roof. And so this is for the ease of business and smooth transition and smooth, easy access that is given to the investors who are coming into our state. And I was talking about RIPS. Some basic benefits under RIPS is we give 75% of state tax due and deposited exemption for 7 years. We give 50 to 75% employers' contribution towards the employer's EPF and ESI for 7 years. And 100% exemption is given on stamp duty and conversion charges of land. And 100% exemption for 7 years is also given on electricity and land tax. So these are just the basic benefits given. And like I said, we have sector-specific policies. We already have the solar, wind, and hybrid energy policies, and all the others are going to be launched this year. And to close my address, I'd like to say that Rajasthan government is very welcoming in its approach. We are a very forward-looking state. We see the opportunities that are there. And we also see the difficulties that the entrepreneurs have faced over the last 2 years. And we want to ensure that they're back in the business with the same enthusiasm that it was before the pandemic. And through your platform and CII, I'd like to thank you once again for giving us this opportunity to represent the state of Rajasthan and share with you all the opportunities that are there in the state. Thank you.
Address on the various opportunities that potential German investors have in your state. I now have the pleasure to invite Mr. Rakesh Violi, Managing Director of the India Business Forum in Hamburg. We look forward to hearing from you on the activities of the India Business Forum platform and how it contributes to advancing the Indo-German collaboration. And may I also kindly request you to introduce yourself to the platform. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Guten Tag. Namaste to everyone. sitting here, and also to all, yeah, that's right. And to all those who are online now joining our event here. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rajesh Mishra for taking this initiative to organize this German-India Business Summit. He has really put a lot of efforts, brought together everyone, and support from the Consul General in Hamburg, that we are now in this third edition of the German-Indian Business Summit. Indian Business Forum is a partner in this summit, and that is why I am here. I will just give you a short introduction. My name is Rakesh Violi. I'm living in Germany for the last 10 years now. Engineer, MBA, worked with a company in India, and then I started a production plant in India, in Nasik, making automotive components. And then in 2006, I was here for the first time on a business trip and found a customer here during one of the exhibitions. Thereafter, my business trips were a few times in a year. And in 2010, I was invited by the Chamber of Commerce in Schleswig-Holstein to live in Germany. And the first reaction was no, because the weather in Hamburg is immer dunkelgrau und es regnet. Yeah. But as we say in German, Schicksal. So now I'm living here for 10 years, and we have a GmbH here. Besides the automotive parts that we produce, we supply in Germany, I also support the Indian companies for business development in the area of automotive. So this was about me, and then I just go to the next part about Indian Business Forum. This is our logo. Indian Business Forum was formed together with the Indian Consulate in 2014. Mainly with the purpose to bring the Indian origin businessmen together on a single platform and covering the 4 northern states of Germany. We have various objectives as listed here, but the main is that any issue related to Indian businessmen to be taken up with the local government here or with the government in India, with the consulate. We have been working together to build up a network. And this is the team which is leading the IBF now. We have been conducting a regular. Okay. So some of the activities that we started in 14 and in 15 are listed here. Mainly, we have regular business events, regularly participating in India Week, organizing business events where we also have the opportunity for businessmen to join from India and to have an interaction with the local companies here in Germany. We are regularly in contact with the consulate and with the various delegations that come from India. Here is one such meeting which we had with the Mrs. Sitaraman, which you can see, and also there was one with the Prime Minister when he was here that time. This is also some of the listed activities here. I don't want to take much time now that we are coming towards the end of the session. What I want to say here is that we recently met along with the consulate, and we have agreed to focus on 3 areas which are listed here. One is IT and engineering services. The second is the recycling of waste to energy. This is the second area. And the third is automotive components. In these areas, we want to work with the German companies, the Indian companies in Germany, with the Indian entrepreneurs, and to support and build up businesses. This is one of the focus that we have identified in 2021. And for this, we are very grateful to our Consul General for the support and the interaction that is being provided to us. So anyone who is willing to join us as a member is welcome to contact the consulate or directly to us and be a part of our team. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. For the closing remarks, I would like to invite who heads the German-Indian Exchange Program, also known as the, and we all heard today from member of Mr. Wiese, Stefan Hanusa, Director General of IGCC, about the excellent work that Julian does through the GenZep, which is a non-monetary platform initiated by the German Startup Association and supported by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy to strengthen and foster exchange startups and support Indian and German startups in their efforts to gain access to the respective other markets. Julian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi, and namaste and good afternoon to everyone in Hamburg and also ones joining from India. It's really a pleasure to join you today and in order to do these closing remarks at this session. And I would like to talk a little bit about maybe first a few words about GenZep and then talk a little bit about the challenges and how we can overcome these challenges by the certain, let's say, organizations that are involved in the Indo-German context and what we altogether can do about it. First, about GenZep, a few words. We work as an open platform to bring together all the stakeholders, all the actors that are active in the Indo-German startup ecosystem. That can be, of course, different players, not only startups, but corporates, investors, of course, incubators, accelerators, associations as well. Whoever is interested or is active in that field or wants to be active in the startup ecosystem. And then also with the focus on inbound and outbound. So from Germany to India, India to Germany. So this is one of the experiences that we made, that it makes sense to see it as this holistic approach also when you do business to tap into the potential that also the exchange has to offer. Then there are three ways, three pillars that we have to actually focus on, which is, of course, the market access that we want to tap into, or the market that we want to tap into. Then should not forget the capital that we need for it. And also, last but not least, the talent. So it's not a secret that we have fantastic talent, great minds in India, and there is a scarce of skilled people in Germany. So this is also something that we should really focus on. And with GenZep, we are one of the platform or the main startup platform in the Indo-German context that is trying to facilitate also the business activities in that context. But now over the last 3 to 4 years of our work, we have some experiences or actually challenges that we found from the experiences of the startups and the companies that are active. And I would like to talk a little about this now, because the main problem that we're seeing is actually there is a lack of orientation in the business process or in the process of setting up business, of doing a business in the respective other country. And I would like to mention that it's always from Germany to India and India to Germany, from both, and the orientation or the lack of orientation, the issues there are similarly. So the challenges are similar. So the first question is always why the other region or why the other country and where to go in the other country. And the best example that we heard today is also of Rajasthan, that let's say, and also to be honest, many companies in Germany would not have Rajasthan on their radar, on their agenda as the destination in India. But this is exactly a fantastic example of why we need to analyze the foreign market properly to see what the best region for your business could be. The same applies to Germany. So definitely one should look beyond the let's say startup hotspots or also the business hotspots in the country. As we know, it's very decentralized and there are business opportunities in all parts of the country. And then another challenge is of course, also the policies and regulations and setting up, doing the business there. They have different partners out there that can overcome that. It helps make sense to develop a network to overcome these issues when it comes to, of course, legal support, or also when it comes to employing people. This is one of the major challenges where there's lots of local and regional players involved. But that brings me to the next point, is finding the right partner. Eventually, to be successful in another market, it's always most fruitful and most helpful if you work with other partners. So, but how to identify these partners is that you need to set up or develop your network. And the network can be done, of course, through brilliant forums like the German Indian Business Summit, but also, of course, associations and other programs like the CII, like the German Indian Business Forum, and of course, also GINSEP for startup matters. So these network partners or these different organizations are extremely helpful when it comes to building or setting up, developing your networks in order to then overcome these challenges that I mentioned when it comes to policy regulations and setting up your business or finding the right partner for that matter. The last point that is really important is the intercultural aspects that are also challenges. So not only when it comes to the literal communication, but also when it comes to building trust or the customer negotiations. So these are always very challenging things for which we always recommend it's important to develop your network. And for developing a network, what we need is platforms. We need platforms and programs and formats like events like these, where really we bring the people together, where we can reach out and make new contacts, where we can really meet the potential partners as well, get some further information on how we can access the other market. So this is basically what we need. And I mentioned fantastic platforms of this, of course, CII, the German Indian Forum, and also GINSEP for that. And also, not to mention also not to forget also what Lakshmi mentioned earlier, of course, what we heard is the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and all the other players that are there. These are the ones that we need to bring together all the actors, starting from startups, from corporates, from investors, the talent, the incubators, the regional hubs, association. We need to work on that community to build a community and to facilitate the business or accessing and doing business in the other countries. So this is why it's immensely helpful to have events like this to really get access to the other market, but also to build the network in that respect. So with that, I would like to hand over to Lakshmi. I'm really grateful that I could be part of this event with my the 2 cents that I could add here. Looking forward to anyone who wants to reach out to me. On a personal note, I'm really excited that the focus today was also on Rajasthan, one of the most also the overlooked regions in India at this point from a foreign perspective, and very personal also. Close to my heart, as my wife is from Rajasthan as well. So I'm really looking forward to also strengthen ties between Rajasthan directly. And for anyone else also out there looking forward, in case you have a question, or always looking forward for reaching out to me. And yeah, please welcome, look forward to connect. And over to you, Lakshmi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Julian, for the closing remarks, and keep up the excellent work that you're doing through GINSEP. Now, before I invite Mr. Gulshan Dhingra, Vice Consul at the Consulate General of India in Hamburg, to deliver the vote of thanks, please allow me, before I take leave, to thank especially Excellency Consul General. This entire summit has been possible only under your guidance and support. And thank you so much to the other partners, and also for giving CII the opportunity this year to be a co-host of this summit. I would also like to thank Ms. Pallavi Mishra, who is the country head of FICCI, for the successful business summit that was conducted last year. Thank you, Pallavi, for giving CI the opportunity this year. And now over to you, Ms. Dhingra.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lakshmi. Namaste, Guten Tag, and good afternoon to all. Honorable Consul General, sir, our most valued speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed my pleasure to present a vote of thanks on the third edition of German India Business Summit 2021. On behalf of Consulate General of India, I take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the honorable speakers, namely Mr. Dirk Wiese, Member of the Bundestag, Mr. Stefan Halusa, Director General, Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for their precious time. And I would also like to express sincere thanks to our wonderful panelists of today's panel discussions, Ms. Angela Giacomo, Head of Bissell Family Office, Mr. Mohan Murthy, Chief Representative Europe, Reliance Industries Limited, Mr. Devdatta Panda, Country Head Germany, ICICI Bank, Mr. Robin Trompeter, CEO Advanced Training Technologies, GmbH, Mr. Gunjan Bhardwaj, Founder and CEO, InnoPlexis AG, Mr. Gaurav Sharma, Lead Advisor Artificial Intelligence at GIZ India. I also wish to express my gratitude to Ms. Julian Sharashi, Head of India Desk, Senate Chancery of Free and Hanseatic City of Hamburg, and Mr. Sanjay Tambe, who is also part of our organizing team, for the wonderful moderation of the panel discussions. It was also interesting to come across proof of Indianness from Ms. Julie when her presentation was delayed by 5 minutes. Jokes apart, we are also grateful to Ms. Rukmini Rier, Additional Commissioner, Investment and NRIs, and Executive Director, RICO, Bureau of Investment Promotion, Government of Rajasthan, for a lively presentation on the Indian state of Rajasthan. Our special thanks to Mr. Rakesh Violi, Managing Director, India Business Forum, Hamburg, for the presentation and experiences he shared with the participants. Finally, a very special thanks to a wonderful moderator, Ms. Lakshmi Lalita Mohan, Head of Conversion of Indian Industry, France and Germany, who moderated the event very flawlessly and in the most interesting way. Ms. Lakshmi Lalita Mohan also extended all the possible help on finalizing today's speakers in close coordination with the consulate and other partners. Last but not the least, our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Julian Six for his participation, Mr. Gopi Prasad for the technical support, and Dr. Rajesh Mishra for the coordination and execution of the event. On the similar footing, let me extend our heartfelt thanks to the representatives of JINCO, Confederation of Indian Industry, Indo-German Network, Bremen Hochschule, IBF, OFO, German Asia Pacific Indian Pacific Business Association, and not to mention, without all your help, this summit would not have seen the light of the day. Equally important is the role played by all my wonderful colleagues, especially Mr. Parminder and Ms. Seema in particular. And before we wind up, let me reiterate that it feels good with a wonderful audience like this, especially after the COVID hangover. It has been a pleasure having all of you on board. And let me also take this opportunity to inform that another hybrid conference coming up on 21st of October from 11 to 1 p.m. on the subject Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-reliant India. So you can have more details while visiting our website. And before you leave, may I now request you to taste the delicious Indian food, which has been sponsored by our Indian Business Forum and Mr. Subhash Violi, the Taj Mahal restaurant. With this, I would like to say goodbye to all of our audience and thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you very much being with us. As a Indian parts, we are grateful and the flower. We want to say the thanks to our guest speakers already, which I've done, but a small flower for first for Julia and Shirashiji. Please come. And may I request CJ sir to give. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'd like to request CJ sir to give Lakshmi Mohan for beautiful moderation and to be our partners. Thank you. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Rakeshji, Mr. Rakesh Vyali from IBF to say thanks to our CG sir because of our partners, supporters, this event happened. And of course, CG sir guide us. And thank you. Now, please. If I would like to request, please come for group photograph. That will be great. Thank you. Please come.